Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. It feels good to be back home in our auditorium, doesn't it? After 3 years of al fresco and field house meetings. Yes, you can applaud. It's quite all right. My name is Mark DeSalvo, and I serve as the elected town moderator. Welcome to the annual town meeting of the town of North Andover, first established in 1646. I call to order the 2023 session of town meeting. A separate must-mask area is set aside. I thank you for respecting those of our neighbors who have some apprehension about large gatherings so they could come to town meeting. I note that the emergency exits are in all four corners, including side exits here. And please pay attention if, in fact, you're directed to evacuate the building. This is the 377th annual North Andover Town Meeting. Each year, Patricia, gentlemen, each year I try to highlight a contributing or deserving stitch in the fabric of our community, a person or group deserving of notice and applause. As we gather at town meeting, we respectfully acknowledge the town of North Andover's presence on the traditional lands of the Pennacook and Pawtucket nations. As the original stewards of this land, they lived with great respect for the land and each other for countless generations. We honor all indigenous peoples who lived on this land before colonization, who live here today, and all future generations. We are fortunate to live in a community where we can appreciate the practice of direct participatory democracy, a very long-standing practice on this land, given that there is significant scholarship that indigenous Americans enjoyed collective decision-making more than 2,500 years ago. With us today are members of the North Andover High School Cultural Diversity Association, representing Native peoples and dozens of other cultures, ethnicities, religions that make up the beauty of our community. Joining us are Sengwan Shin, Kawan Souza Do Karmo, William Callahan, Vanio Perenikliev, Georgie Rashad, and Alex Space, who as an 8th grader first made me aware of land acknowledgement. Let's welcome them, please. For those of you willing and able to stand, I invite you to do so as these good people just introduced lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. In a moment. Gentlemen, to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your good work. I invite you to join us in the non-voter section. In a few years, you'll be down here as voters, correct? Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you. By show of your voting cards, I'm going to ask how many have been to town meeting in the past. That's just about all of us. Thank you very much. In the interest of brevity, then, I will dispense with most of my usual introductions, review of rules, and conduct, and will bring them up only as necessary. I note that they are published in the warrant book that everybody has been given, and that starts on page 4 in the moderator's message and the accompanying rules of behavior and process that we will be following this evening. I'm grateful for the citizen advocates, particularly Attorney Max Butterbrodt, who will be available to assist citizens with town meeting problems and act as deputy moderator if there is a need. If you need his assistance, just call out from the microphone or seek any of the tellers or go visit him in the middle of the hall. He's raising his hand, and I'd ask you he'll be very welcome to sit with you. Joining him are other citizen advocates helping us with monitoring compliance of our Remote Questions Initiative. Longtime volunteer Heather McNeil and Carolyn Cole. Thank you to all three of you. They also act as our lost and found and problem resolution center if anybody has anything. I do note that we have felled a lot of trees to conduct this meeting. Please utilize the familiar paper recycling receptacles located throughout the venue and in the hallways. I do also wish you to know that I have sworn an affidavit that I have no conflict on the matters before us this evening, have not advocated a public position on any of the articles, and can perform my duties fairly and impartially. I will continue my practice to vote only to make or break a tie. We do allow those who are observing the meeting live on TV or streaming on the internet to email and text questions into the meeting that the Citizen Advocate Group and the Remote Question Team will be reviewing. If you wish to participate, you can go to the town's website, northandoverma.gov, or text to 978-216-3774. These will occasionally crawl or scroll on the screen. Closed captioning is available to all in the auditorium or at home. Please go to the Zoom address previously displayed on the screen should you wish to avail yourself in the room or at home with that. Assisted hearing devices or Braille copies of the warrant can be accessed by asking any teller. We come together this evening in good faith to make judgments for our entire community. Sitting here, you have been transformed from citizens to legislators. It's a very different responsibility. We leave cynicism and bad faith behind us, knowing the magnitude of our collective efforts. Thank you in advance for choosing to respectfully participate in local democracy. I now recognize the Chair of the Select Board, Janice Phillips.
Mr. Moderator, Janice Phillips, 355 Osgood Street, Chair of the Select Board. I move that this meeting dispense with the reading of the warrant and with the reading of the constable's return of service of that warrant. I further move that the moderator not be required to read articles of the warrant verbatim, but be allowed to refer to articles by number and by subject matter, and further that any motion or amendments need not be read, but are to be voted upon as shown, published, or otherwise provided in print to the voters in attendance.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
The motion is made and second. You'll be hearing that. I ask you all in favor to raise your banded hand with your red card. Thank you very much. Those opposed, please do the same. I declare it a unanimous vote. We'll move on to Articles 1, 2, 3, and 4 by something we call unanimous consent. These are merely housekeeping articles, as we have done commonly for some years now. Is there an objection? I hear none. May I hear a motion, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move to adopt Articles 1, 2, 3, and 4 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made.
Second.
And seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please raise your red card with your banded hand. Thank you very much. Those opposed, I declare it a unanimous vote. Similarly, we will now group by category Article 21, 28, and 29. Is there objection? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, Denman O'Connell, 88 Green Street. I would move to adopt Articles 21, 28, and Article 29 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please raise, those in favor, please raise your card with a banded hand. Thank you. Those opposed, I declare it another unanimous vote. Lastly, on the consent agenda, Articles 23 and 24. Is there objection? Hearing none, do I have a motion? Mr. O'Connell? Thank
Mr.
you.
Moderator, I would move to adopt Articles 23 and 24 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? I declare it yet again another unanimous vote. Congratulations all. We've just dealt with fully 1/4 of our business tonight. You deserve a round of applause. It's quite all right.
You get to go home now?
No, we don't get to go home now. Although I still get paid if I do go home now, don't I? Well, I can't afford dinner for my 30 cents an hour, but nonetheless. We're now on to Article 5, ladies and gentlemen. Do I hear a motion on Article 5?
Mr. Moderator, move to adopt Article 5 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Do I hear a second on the motion?
Second.
The motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, Melissa Rodriguez, Town Manager. This is merely a housekeeping article. The current bylaw is conflicting. It allows the Select Board to set rates for the Town Clerk's office, but also goes ahead and sets the rates, which would be confusing to an average person. So we would like to remove this. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I understand that the Select Board has a recommendation.
Select Board recommends favorable action.
We're now ready for discussion if anyone wishes to discuss the motion. I see no interest in discussion. All those in favor, please raise your card. Thank you very much. Those opposed, I declare it yet again another unanimous vote. Article 6. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town accept General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 17E, which authorizes an annual increase in the asset whole estate limit for exemptions granted to senior citizens.
If I might, all that's necessary is to suggest that which is in your motion book or in the warrant and displayed on the screen. I'm sorry, one moment. So
The Article
let's hear
6
the
as
motion again.
displayed on the, I make a motion for Article 6 as displayed on the screen.
Thank you very much. Do we have any discussion on the article?
Mr. Moderator, I would request that we discuss Articles 6 through 9 collectively, but vote them individually because they require different motions as reflected on the screen.
That's totally acceptable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Articles 6 through 9 all deal with real estate tax exemptions and are local options available to the town that we are recommending approving tonight. Article 6 would allow more people to be eligible for an $175 credit that is for senior citizens. Currently, there is a very low cost of living that is allowed for these articles, and we would like to increase that cost of living annually. This has not been amended since 1986. The second article, Article 7, has not been amended since 2002. It would address both the person's income and assets and would increase the cost of living on both of those. This one has not been amended since 2002. To give you an idea of those income limits now, currently if a single person makes more than $13,000, they are not eligible for the exemption. And if they make more than $15,000 if married, they would not be eligible. And if they had assets that exceeded $28,000 if single, they would not be eligible. Article 8 allows the town to increase by matching 100% the real estate tax exemptions available. This would be for surviving spouses, surviving children, and qualifying seniors over 70. It would also be for disabled veterans and qualifying blind persons. The cost for Article 8 is $90,000 and is paid through the overlay account, so there's no increased cost to taxpayers to do this. Article 9 would allow the town to exempt 100% of the taxes for real estate and personal property for Massachusetts National Guard and reservists who are on active duty in foreign countries. Article 9 would need to be revoted every 2 years. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You're very welcome. We're going to discuss, as we just noted, these articles together. They deal essentially with the same interests. Does anybody have any discussion that they would like or a query? Please come forward.
Hello, thank you. Julia Grimaldi, 84 Saunders Street, regarding Article 9.
Welcome. Now, as our inaugural speaker, we let everybody know that there's 2 minutes on the clock at the time of introduction. Please proceed.
My question is for Article 9, if the reservist has a family member or anyone living on the property that would be exempt.
Indeed it would. What would happen is that the Board of Assessors, which is an appointed committee in the town, would actually create rules and regulations in order to govern Article 9 per the law. But yes, the family could still be living in the property while the person is abroad.
Thank you.
Do we have any other queries? Hearing none, the motion, that we'll need separate motions in order to pass these. We have a motion for Article 6 that's been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your card. Thank you. And those opposed? Let's continue the streak. Unanimous votes. May I have a motion for Article 7, please?
Mr. Moderator, I motion Article 7 as shown on the screen.
The motion is made and
Second.
seconded. Thank you much. All those in favor, please raise your card. Thank you. Those opposed? Let's continue the streak. Well done, everybody. Motion for Article 8, please.
I move to adopt Article 8 as displayed on the screen.
The
Second.
motion is made and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your card. Thank you. Those opposed? I declare it a unanimous vote. And now a motion for Article 9.
I move to adopt Article 9 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Motion is made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your card. Thank you very much. All those opposed? Another unanimous vote. Let's keep moving. Article 10. It is my understanding that the Select Board no longer wish to propose this article. A motion to take no action is in order. This is an effective withdrawal of the article and makes the matter wholly moot. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move we take no action on Article 10.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? The motion is made and seconded. There's generally no discussion allowed for an article that is for taking no action. But seeing that we've surprised you all, if there is discussion, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your card. All those opposed? I declare it a majority vote, an overwhelming majority vote. Article 11. Do I have a motion?
I move to adopt Article 11 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made
Second.
and seconded. Is there an explanation and discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is a little bit of deja vu from last year when we withdrew the Town of North Andover Police Department from civil service. The town adopted civil service in 1924 for firefighters. They are the only civil service government employees left in town. For those that don't know, civil service is a unit within the state's Human Resources Division. Their job is to test job applicants through a written exam only, as well as those seeking promotions, and then create lists for the town to choose from. They do not pre-screen candidates, and they do not allow the towns to pre-screen candidates. By leaving civil service, the town has taken control of the hiring and promotion processes. We have worked with the fire department to create a unique process that is tailored to North Andover, rather than a generic multiple choice test that is given statewide. We will still have preferences for local candidates and veterans. Current employees maintain their protections in their current rank. We have support from both the town as well as the fire union to vacate civil service. Thank you.
Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor, please raise your card. Thank you. All those opposed? A unanimous vote. Article 12. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move to adopt Article 12 as shown on the screen.
Article 12 is moved.
Second.
In the second. Is there any discussion or explainer?
Mr. Moderator, as a quick explanation, this bylaw is a collaborative effort between multiple parties and boards to create a streamlined and inclusive process to make certain that we create the best possible school building committees to assist us with school building projects. This is especially important in light of Facilities Master Plan 2, and we thank everyone for their collaboration on this.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your card. All those, thank you. All those opposed? I declare it a majority vote. We're moving on to citizens' petitions now. We have some guests. Students. These are articles that have been placed on the warrant by residents. It has been the tradition and past practice of our town meeting to hear from all who can help inform our meeting, even if there are some who speak who may not be registered voters. Particularly, we welcome hearing from principals and petitioners. The upcoming articles, so I understand, will likely have some who fit that category. Because we endeavor to be transpicious here in North Andover, when speaking, they will have the affirmative obligation to declare that they are not a registered voter. Do I hear objection? Hearing none, we will allow such contribution. Article 13. Do I hear a motion for Article 13?
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as written in the warrant and on the screen.
Please identify yourself.
Oh, Christina Minicucci, 12 Lavender Circle.
Thank you very much. The motion is made and seconded. Do I hear a second? Thank you. I see a second. Now I understand that we have a presentation. We have a 5-minute presentation by a group of 8th grade students who have petitioned the article. You are very, very welcome. Please come forward.
My name is Sophia
Please
Flores.
come right up to the microphone
Yeah.
and start with your name, and we'll go from there. We'll start the clock right now.
My name is Sophia Flores Carajamas, and I live at 15 Winkus Farm Road.
Welcome.
Good evening. We are NAM's AP Civics students, and we are here at town meeting to discuss Article 13. Next slide, please.
My name is Bindu Pai. I live 509 Waverly Road. This is the language of Article 13, Citizen Petition, the William Symmes Jr. Act. Next slide, please.
My name is Trudy Dew. I live at 700 Chestnut Street.
And my name is Kesha Mahadevan, and I reside in 71 Seville Street.
William Symmes Jr. was the town of Andover's only lawyer and one of 3 selected delegates to attend the 1788 Massachusetts Ratification Convention for the U.S. Constitution in Boston, representing his community.
He was told to vote no by town leaders, but he was swayed to change his mind based on proposed amendments to the Constitution that included the addition of a Bill of Rights. His vote helped change the minds of other people, resulting in Massachusetts ratifying the U.S. Constitution by a 187 to 168 vote. Historians feel that this was a huge statement to the next states also holding ratification conventions.
He was treated unfairly upon... Can you please go back one slide, please? Thank you. He was treated unfairly upon his arrival back to Andover, including losing all of his law clients and being socially isolated from his community. This led to him leaving his home in 1790, moving north to Portland, never returning again. Next slide, please.
Hi, I'm Michael Lane. I reside on 29 Hamilton Road.
Hi, my name's Mehek and I reside on 8 Buckland Road.
We are NAM's 8th grade civics students who studied Symmes in the class during the U.S. Constitution unit. We came to the conclusion that Symmes should be recognized for all of his accomplishments, not only to North Andover, but also to the United States.
It is our hope that a yes vote will begin a process to not only celebrate Mr. Symmes, but possibly lead to more action in the future within our community around his legacy, such as more signings at NAMS in his wing, a street or square named after him, or other things that will educate the community about him. We thank the town for this opportunity to discuss and vote on this article, providing us with the real-world civics lesson that we'll never forget. Next slide, please.
Hi, my name is Mariah Eskel, and I live at 10 Compass Point. This is the actual yes vote that Symmes bravely cast at the convention, and this is the NAM's Grade 6 wing named after him, where we all spent a year of our middle school experience. Next slide, please. He now stands before us, a patriot above suspicion, a great man who in the ardor of youth, full of abilities, with a capacity proved fitted for the highest post, yet repelling at once the counseling of selfishness and the prompting of ambition, surrendering his chosen prospects in life, the hope to acquire wealth and honor in his native town, for the sake of the people, the whole people, and expecting no reward but in his own consciousness. And in approval and gratitude of whoever would stand where we do, witness the entire success of Union and May Constitution then formed. He knew that the majority of those who sent him here had recorded his condemnation in advance. It does not appear that he expected or conciliated favor from their minority. It is certain that he received none. If he had from a popular nomination, an appointment, or even professional patronage, it might have brought suspicion upon his integrity, but the sacrifice was complete, and for the first time he lost all and gained nothing.
Are we completed? Thank you very, very much. I am appreciative of the civics lesson. I'd like to part one small piece of company with you. I heard much too much reference to the town of Andover. I've heard of that place before. But William Symmes did, in fact, live in North Andover, and we should revel in that fact. Are there any questions for these students or other commentary? I'm sorry, are you coming down to query? Okay, thank you very much. So I hear none. Are we ready for a vote? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please raise your card. All those opposed? I declare it a unanimous vote. All good fortune to you. Civics truly in action. Thank you very much. We'll now move to Article 14. Do I hear a motion for Article 14?
Nancy Sarro, 44 Equestrian Drive. I move Article 14 as printed in the warrant and as shown on the screen.
The motion is made. Is there a second? The motion is made and seconded. It's now my understanding that we have an up to 5-minute presentation. I'll invite those who are presenting to do so on the affirmative.
Two members from our committee, North Andover Citizens for Sustainable Living, will be presenting, and they'll introduce themselves.
Thank you.
Good evening. Kanthi Sataraju, 194 Gray Street.
Oh. We'll give you those 4 seconds back. Go ahead.
And good evening. Keith Connors, 4 Village Green Drive.
Next slide, please. The first part of this presentation will spotlight the overwhelming volume of plastic bag usage, contrasted against the low rate of plastic bag recycling and the impact to our environment, including the harm to humans and animals. Next slide, please. 100 billion plastic bags are used in the U.S. each year. Approximately 11 million are used in North Andover alone. Most plastic bags are discarded after one use, and on average, plastic bags are used for 12 minutes each. Next slide, please. Only 5% of plastic bags are recycled properly, which in our area means to place them in the receptacles in Market Basket. Next slide, please. Plastic bags are not allowed in curbside recycling. They clog the processing equipment at the recycling plant. The right photo shows workers manually removing the bags. Next slide, please. Plastic bags in the regular trash are incinerated at the Wheelabrator in North Andover. When plastics are burned, they give off highly toxic chemicals that are known to cause cancer and birth defects. Bottom line, the less plastic burned, the better. Next slide, please. These are just some examples of the litter around town. Next slide, please. Plastics take 500 to 1,000 years to break down and never fully biodegrade. Instead, plastic breaks down into tiny particles which end up in our water and soil, contaminating the food chain and entering our bodies. The particles of plastic shown on the person's finger were collected from the lungs, liver, spleen, and kidneys of a human. Next slide, please. Plastic bags kill animals by suffocation, choking, intestinal blockages, and entanglement. 100,000 marine animals are killed by plastic annually. Next slide, please. In the United States, 12 million gallons of oil are required to produce plastic bags. When the oil is extracted, it pollutes our air and water, and when it is burned, the emissions contribute to climate change. Next slide, please.
So what is the solution? The solution is to reduce plastic bag use and to join Massachusetts communities across the state to be part of the solution. Next slide, please. Our proposal for North Andover is to regulate checkout bags by requiring that they are paper or reusable at larger establishments that carry any type of food. Next slide, please. Our warrant article will affect larger businesses selling human and animal food products, including at Market Basket, TJ Maxx, Petco, CVS, and Bertucci's. Schools, nonprofits, festivals, and religious institutions would be exempt. This would be enforced by the North Andover Health Department and would start January 1st, 2024. Next slide, please. These are examples of plastic bags that would still be allowed. Next slide, please. And here are some examples of free dog poo bags. Next slide, please. There are 154 cities and towns that currently regulate single-use plastic bags, including neighboring towns such as Andover, Tewksbury, Lowell, Haverhill, and Newburyport. This represents over 67% of the state's population. Next slide, please. Supporting our businesses. Our citizens group has considered the needs of small businesses by including a 3,000 square foot threshold. We will also have reusable bags to give citizens directly or through businesses that request them. We hope that residents will also do their part by transitioning to reusable bags. Next slide, please. This slide lists just some of the many supporters of this initiative. Next slide, please. Together, we can reduce plastic use. Thank you for your time, and we hope for your support.
There are several of our community leadership organizations who have studied this matter and taken positions. I'd first like to inquire of the Select Board.
Select Board has voted favorable action.
Thank you very much. Next is the Sustainability Committee. Does it have a representative here? Please.
Andrew Mitchell, 1 Faulkner Road. the Sustainability Committee votes favorable action.
Thank you very much. And it's my understanding that the Board of Health has made a recommendation. Is there a representative here?
Michelle Davis, 127 Carterfield Road, Board of Health Chair. Nay.
Thank you very much. Now it's appropriate for discussion or questions. We always prefer questions on the front side rather than declarations of support or non-support. Are there any questions about this matter? Yes. Are you speaking as a citizen? Are you speaking as a citizen?
I'm not speaking for the board, but you were asked. This
I'm going to invite you to go to the floor if you're speaking as a citizen. Sir.
Kevin Doobie, 76 Boston Hill Road. I am a member of Sustainability, but I'm appearing before you as a citizen. I oppose this measure. As the people said, that we do burn, yep, I know. We burn our trash at Wheelabrator. The HDPE bags are made simply out of carbon and hydrogen. They have a very similar carbon footprint to natural gas, which provides over 50% of our electricity currently. By burning these bags, you're simply reusing them, recycling them into electricity with very little differentiation between that and methane, which you're saving by burning them. The other thing is that they can be made into Trex decking. It's true that we do not recycle enough of these bags. There are bag recycling bins available at Stop and Shop and Market Basket. And Trex actually has a schools program where they encourage schools to recycle. We already do food recycling and other recycling at our schools. We could easily add this to that. And they award prizes, including a bench if you meet certain benchmarks for the recycling program. So this sounds like a win-win for the town and for the environment if we simply recycle the bags and or utilize them to turn them into electricity. I would like to take this moment and ask if a representative of the Board of Health would speak on why they unanimously voted against this prospect.
Thank you very much. I will invite a representative from the Board of Health if they choose to answer the question.
Do I have to do my name again?
Please.
Michelle Davis, 127 Carterfield Road, Board of Health Chair. The North Andover Board of Health unanimously opposed Article 14 based on three main concerns. 1, inconclusive data. 2, lack of an educational component for community-wide sustainability efforts prior to issuing a restriction. And 3, lack of aligned support from the local merchants association and local businesses.
Thank you very much. Do we have next person to speak on the right?
Hi, Elizabeth Guerin, 85 Johnson Street. Personally, I am for this article, mainly because the litter I see all over town. Clearly, the bags aren't getting where they belong, even if they can be used to produce electricity, as one person said. The vast majority seem to be ending up in our trees and in the water. But I really would like to know if the Citizens Committee that put forth this article would like to respond or can respond to the Board of Health's objections.
I will invite a representative of that group to do so.
Thank you for the question. Keith Connors, 4 Village Green Drive. Frankly, we were greatly disappointed with the Board of Health. We presented the serious negative impact of excessive plastic bags on human and animal health and the health on our environment. Unfortunately, we noted that the Board of Health focus was on the implementation and inconvenience for a handful of businesses and not on the broader health implications around the production and disposal of plastic bags. The Board of Health representative talked about the education component. And that's kind of a facetious argument because many studies have shown that education has little or no effect on recycling rates. In fact, a perfect example of this study can be found in our northern neighbor, Maine, where in 2009 it launched a statewide campaign to encourage reusable bags and recycling of plastic bags. Yet in testimony before the Maine legislature on March 1st, it just happened, Sarah Nichols, the Sustainability Director for the Natural Resources Council of Maine, stated that despite a decade of education around recycling, that the recycling rate didn't increase and it's still less than 6%. Less than 6%. So the educational programs are not working, but we know in the 154 communities around Massachusetts that implementing a plastic bag restriction is effective and will reduce the harm that plastic bags are causing. And I'm here to represent the youth that we know that want a sustainable future. So we do hope you will vote and support this. Thank you.
Please.
Mr. Moderator, Rosemary Smedili, 65 Green Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. I would have come anyways, though. My main concern, well, there's a couple, but my main concern, frankly, is about our elderly and people who have mobility issues. And the plastic bags are easier for them to handle and manipulate. The paper bags, if they were to purchase them, are difficult to handle. The handles break, you have to hug them. So I have concerns about our elderly and our people with mobility issues, that this could be difficult for them. Also, too, many of our older citizens live in North Andover housing, which they have coin-operated washers and things like that. I believe that we need to consider what is best for all of our citizens. I also believe, as Mrs. Guerin had said, that we are all sick of the litter. I think we do need more outreach from the community, like many of us here had as children. You would see, don't be a litter bug advertisements. You would see the Native American with tears in their eyes. I think we need to do more of that, even if it's just on our local station. But one thing that does really concern me is we have a very highly educated Board of Health. We have doctors, career nurses, people who run hospitals, and I could go on. And I am concerned with their concern as well. The other thing, too, is when people are bringing their cloth bags and bringing them back into the store, if they leave them in their car in the sun, they're full of bacteria. We don't know if people are cleaning them enough. There's things that need to be handled with this that isn't all addressed.
Folks, please finish your sentence.
Yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is I think we need more time and effort working with the Board of Health to work out all the kinks on this article.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move to the right.
Thank you. My name is Hollis Young, and I live at 575 Osgood Street. And my question is, how long do reusable bags last?
Is there somebody that volunteers to answer that question from the proponents?
Lynn Langton, 10 Surrey Drive. I can tell you that this bag is 28 years old. I've used it over 1,400 times. And how do I know that? Because on it, I know you can't read it because it's faded from being washed so many times, it says Birthing Suite Lawrence General Hospital, and my child is 28 years old, and it can probably last another 28 years.
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Peter Boynton, 320 Stevens Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm speaking as both the resident and also as the town's volunteer harbor master. I spend a lot of time on the lake, and I've picked up a huge amount of trash and debris paddling and rowing around the lake. And of all the objects that I most commonly find in the lake, one of them are the plastic bags. And what really disturbs me is that more often than not, when I try to remove a plastic bag from the lake, and again, it's very common to find them, the entire bag is not there. They tend to disintegrate into the water, and whatever those microparticles are go into our, at least, intake. And as to how far they get into the drinking system, no, but it's certainly a concern for me to see those dissolving into the lake water. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I suggest, if I might, that we spend about another 10 minutes or so on discussing this article. Allow everybody who's at the microphones right now to give their up to 2 minutes. Sir.
My name is Greg Muschetti. I live at 1492 Great Pond Road. I am a member of the Sustainability Committee, but I'm speaking as a private citizen. I wanted to say we've only been in North Andover for, well, since last August, however many months that is. We moved here from Brattleboro, Vermont, where we saw a similar law passed in Brattleboro. And we found that it was very successful in Brattleboro. There was a few businesses that didn't like the idea, but once the ordinance was passed, they adjusted. No one went out of business. No one lost customers. It all seemed to be rather a seamless process. So I do have a couple of questions for the citizens who are sponsoring this action, and I'd like to know a little bit more about how did you reach out, or what businesses did you reach out, how did you reach out to businesses, and what kind of advice or support would you give to these businesses who are concerned about having to switch over from plastic bags?
Thank you. I'm going to invite them. You'll have 1 minute, and I'm going to be limiting everyone else speaking. The line has grown. Please, no more people in line, to 1 minute going forward.
Thank you for that question. Nancy Sarro, 44 Equestrian Drive. We did go out and speak to businesses. We did reach out to the Merchants Association. They came back with some questions, which we answered, and then we never heard another word from the Merchants Association, just FYI. But we did go out because we didn't, that avenue did not work with the Merchants Association. We did go out and talk to a number of businesses. The businesses, most of the businesses that had concern were the smaller businesses, particularly the ones downtown where people might walk to go to the store. So that is why we implemented the 3,000 square foot threshold. So we did very much try to consider the needs of the businesses. The other thing is we do want to acknowledge that paper bags cost more than plastic. So if businesses switch one-to-one from plastic to paper, there will be a cost, but there are many ways around that. They could sell reusable bags with their own logo and use it as a marketing opportunity. They could offer a small discount for using a reusable bag. They could charge a fee for using paper bags. Stop and Shop is starting to do that, by the way. No more plastic bags at Stop and Shop and a fee for paper. And don't always default to giving a bag for 1 or 2 items.
Time. Thank you very much. Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Mary Foley. I live at 153 Chadwick Street. A couple of questions that I had were almost answered just recently. I wanted to know why the exemption. It seems to me that it's a great proposal. I'm very much in favor. And why not all or nothing? Why exemption for small business?
I suspect we'll get somebody who wants to answer that question. Are you done?
No, so she did. And also I would like to express my disappointment with the Board of Health and not supporting it. It is an initiative that's a positive thing for the town. It's a health issue. We need to clean up the town. It's filthy, and I think it's great. And I thank the committee. And also, I am a senior. Carrying a plastic or carrying a cloth makes no difference.
Thank you very much. Is there somebody who wishes to answer? Is there somebody who wishes to answer the lady's question? As to her question again was about exemption.
Yeah, Nancy Sarro, 44 Equestrian Drive. I think we already answered it, but just to emphasize, we were trying to be a little bit considerate of the smaller businesses in town, and we thought this was a reasonable threshold. Most towns don't have a threshold at all. Most towns apply it across the board. 2 local towns, Lowell and Haverhill, have a threshold. It's 3,000 square feet. So there is a precedent for that, but many and most other towns do not offer that exemption at all.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Stan Novak, 26 Pembroke Road.
Welcome.
We've already covered that this is a burden for small companies. That's why you're giving the exemption. Stop and Shop charges 50 cents or 10 cents per bag. That's going to put a strain on the poor people of our community. This is going to get passed on to them. Their food budget only goes so far. This is costing them more money. This would be much better if it was a voluntary program. Just go out and ask the stores to offer paper as an option. Then people who want paper as an option can have paper. People who want plastic can have plastic. That's how it used to be. That is great. Since we were talking about education earlier, I want to educate everyone on what the fascist economic model is. The fascist economic model,
ladies and gentlemen,
education. The fascist economic model.
Sir, excuse me. Please put 20 seconds on the clock. The gentleman is allowed. Please go forward.
The fascist economic model is private ownership and public control of business. This is pushing us that much further in that direction. There's nothing wrong with a voluntary program. If you want to use your recycle bag, go ahead. A lot of people need plastic for other things. Nobody wants a clear plastic bag for their poop.
Thank you, sir. We're going to move to this microphone.
Okay.
Come closer.
Okay. So my name is Sean Eastwood from 100 Stephen Street. The first point I wish to raise is that reusable bags are unsanitary. They accumulate crumbs, grease stains, and filth much over the period of multiple uses, and it creates more work to have to launder them. In addition, they will invariably be forgotten on shopping trips as they have to be carted back out to your vehicle after each use. They will just create an additional headache for the ordinary citizen. In addition, regarding the topic of litter, I have seen plastic bottles, McDonald's containers, and even a reusable bag discarded on the side of the road as litter. So plastic bags are only a small part of the litter problem.
Thank you very much, sir.
Jacob Nevins, 52 Marblehead Street.
Welcome.
Before I ask my question, as a student that goes to this school, I'd like to say, at least from my point of view as a younger person here, the environment and keeping it safe and healthy is very important to me, and I think that the people that are against this are making up reasons to be against it. Cleaning reusable bags and bringing them to the store is not hard. Moreover, 18 countries in Europe have successfully done this. Why shouldn't we just follow their lead?
Thank you for your opinion, sir.
Hello, my name is Drew Faniff. I live on 939 Johnson Street. And I had a question for those who oppose the reduction of plastic bags on the grounds of that they can be used for energy production, on how they think those bags are produced, because they don't just appear in the grocery store. They have to be made, and that takes energy. And I'm not sure if most people are aware of the laws of thermodynamics, but to make something, there's going to be a little bit of energy lost. So if you're just burning them immediately, there's also going to be energy lost there. Not all of the energy that are used to make the bags can be used then to create more energy when they're burned. When they are burned, they are 3.8 times less energy efficient than what's seen as one of the dirtiest energy sources as coal, and it is also significantly less clean. It's not just hydrogen and carbon. It releases mercury, lead, and arsenic into our atmosphere. And if it is not burnt or recycled, it's thrown into the rivers and waterways, which, as we saw before, releases microplastics, which will kill our fish or even get into our own bodies eventually through the food webs. Thank you,
sir. We've hit our 10-minute suggested limit. I'm going to allow those people who are standing to give us commentary or questions for 1 minute, and then we'll move to a vote. Sir.
Hi, Shane Woodruff, 163 Laconia Circle.
Welcome.
If we could please scroll up to 10.3, just like to have the language of the regulation appear. I just want point of clarity. This is not a law against plastic bags. This is just preventing certain businesses from issuing them for free. If people want to keep their bags, they can get them from anywhere and continue to use them. There will be no impact to them. They just won't be handed out for free at specific places. So there's no prevention of existing behavior should you choose. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Laura Craig Coleman. I live at 58 Fernwood Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. And so sort of piggybacking on the previous comment in this line, according to the Wall Street Journal, incineration converts less than 25% of material energy to marketable electricity, whereas coal is 35%, natural gas is 45%. Even landfill methane burns capture 35% efficiency. So we could put all of these in a landfill and get more energy out of them than by incinerating them. So I don't think that's a great argument. And also the argument for not doing this because there's other litter is not really an argument either. Other litter can also be addressed. We can take away the 3,000 square foot exemption if in the future we decide that it's feasible and necessary. Further action can always be taken, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't take this now.
Hello, my name is Marcia Finkelstein. I'm at 2104 Harvest Drive. Full disclosure,
Welcome.
I am a new member of the Housing Authority, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a citizen. Before I moved to North Andover, I lived in another community that had passed a much more intense version of this, and nothing wrong happened. People were okay. I just have a little visual aid. I have my bag, and it lasts a while, and if it gets dirty, I can wash it out. It's like no big deal. So I want to encourage the people here who are here to vote on this warrant to vote in support. And I appreciate you listening, and thank you.
Thank you. And the last minute, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tom Duggan, 75 Main Street. I really respect people on both sides of this. I think most people are coming at this from a place of earnest. I think people generally believe in trying to protect the planet. I think people also believe in not going too far. I think I'm on the not too far part. Tewksbury tried this before COVID. They banned plastic bags. Then COVID hit. And some of the science said that COVID clings to plastic more than paper. So they did away with it. I heard in my office before I got here, I'm a little out of breath because I had to rush to get here for the vote. I heard people talking about being sick of the plastic bags that they see on the ground, the litter. I don't know, pick it up. And the last thing that I want to say is that the reason why we're here talking about plastic bags is because at one time the environmentalists came forward and said we were cutting down the rainforest. We had to stop cutting down the rainforest. We need to go to plastic bags. And now we're hearing from environmentalists to do the opposite. So my only question, in earnest, with respect, is don't you care about the rainforest? Thank you.
You're very welcome, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard some spirited discussion. I think we're now ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as provided, please raise your red card. You may put them down. Thank you very much. All those opposed, please raise your red card. I declare the motion carries by a substantial majority. There are some people betting how long the town meeting will last today, so all the applause is just making it pitch to a later time. Let's move. They could be on the long side, that's right. Let's move to Article 15 and 16, which will be discussed together, and I invite the petitioner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Jennifer Goldman at 28 Jared Place.
I move to accept Article 15 and 16 as written in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Okay, so we're going to limit that only to Article 15, because then we only do one motion at a time.
Okay.
But please, you're welcome to present your opinion on both Article 15 and 16.
Great.
I do hear a second on Article 15, by the way. I hear a second. Go ahead.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So a yes on Article 15 allows us to consider a Saturday morning town meeting to attract parents and guardians of young children to vote without paying for babysitters and having their child up very late in the town-free provided babysitting services. A yes for Article 16 allows college students to return home and vote on matters that impact their choice to return to live and work in our wonderful town of North Andover. And in addition, it still allows Town Hall to comply with the town meeting deadlines with the state and gives them even more time than they had and were able to adhere to for the mid-June 2020 and 21 town meetings. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Is there any discussion or questions about both Article 15 and 16?
Good evening. Eric Eidweiner, 571 Sharpners Pond Road.
Welcome.
Thank you. So on behalf of my wife and I, I'm speaking to urge a no vote on Article 15. As you heard, this article creates the possibility of town meeting being held on Saturday mornings, where existing statute 30-11 on page 12 of the warrant says town meeting must be held Monday through Thursday evenings. Orthodox Jews and others who strictly observe Shabbat, including not being able to work, drive, conduct business, and other restrictions from Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown, would not be able to participate in a town meeting on a Saturday morning. I spoke this afternoon to one of the rabbis at the Chabad Lubavitch synagogue in Andover, and he confirmed that those who observe Shabbat in this way unequivocally cannot participate if town meeting is on a Saturday. The rabbi also said that there are some North Andover residents who are part of that congregation. Personally, I'm a Reform Jew, and while I observe Shabbat, it's not in these ways. And many Jews of various denominations would similarly be comfortable participating, but not all Jews, and this means not all North Andover residents would be able to participate. To be very clear, I understand that this impact of Article 15 was not intended, and I'll also admit that being a little late to the game and reading through the warrant precluded me from reaching out directly to the author of it. Regardless, if we pass this, and then at some point town meeting is held on a Saturday, exclusion would be an unintended but definite and very real effect. We can easily avoid scheduling town meeting at a time that would exclude residents from participation, and we can maintain everyone's freedom and access to participate in local government. To do this, I hope you will join me in voting no on Article 15. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Diane Huster, 279 Winter Street.
Welcome.
Pardon?
Welcome.
I want to give you a little history. I'm here speaking against this article. I was on the school committee for 18 years when we had Saturday town meetings. It was extremely difficult to get people to come on Saturday morning, especially in the month of May. They had communions, first communions. They had weddings. They had college graduations. They had games, trips, athletic games. There are a lot more athletic games nowadays than there were way back in, I hate to say it, the 80s. It's also the Sabbath for several religions, and you're unequivocally, they can't come. So I urge you to please vote against this. And we worked very hard not to have Saturdays back in the 80s because people just couldn't make it. Thank you.
Sir.
Eitan Goldberg, 125 Sawmill Road.
Welcome.
I'm a member of the planning board, but speaking on my own behalf, I don't really have a position on these two articles. I would just say that we should really think about the intent behind them, because we don't get enough people to town meeting. We just don't. It's so hard for parents with children, whether they have young kids that they can't leave home, whether they have other activities, and whether it's a Tuesday night or a Saturday morning, we're not doing enough to get people out and to make it accessible. So I'm not particularly in favor of these two. I think the idea is right, but I think we need to really focus on having some discussions over the next year or two about how to make it more inclusive so that, and put everything on the table. Put Saturdays on the table, put a different night, put multiple nights, put anything you can do at a ballot, put anything on the table, discuss whether it's allowed by the law, how we could get there, but we need to be having discussions on how to make it so that there's not 200 or 300 people deciding everything for the town. Even in our most contentious town meetings, we've had, 2,000, 3,000 people? 3,000. And more people vote on the most basic, everyday election where there's nothing on the ballot and nobody running. So we need to do better. I don't think this is particularly the answer, but it's really important that it started the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Stan Novak, 26 Pembroke Road. If we want more people to vote, maybe on citizens' petitions, they all should go on the ballot and not at town meeting, but that's not really why I'm here. I just have a question. I noticed that for Article 15, a majority vote is required, but for 16, 2/3 vote is required, and I am curious as to why.
I will answer that question for you.
I thought
Thank
you could.
A majority vote is required in the first article because it is a bylaw, and bylaws can be amended, changed, proposed with majority votes. The second requires our charter change, and a charter change under black letter Massachusetts law requires a 2/3 vote to propose. Sir.
Michael Liss, 30 Leanne Drive.
Welcome.
Thank you. And I don't, like Mr. Goldberg, I don't know if I have a hugely strong position on whether or not town meeting should be held on Saturday. But I do want to elaborate a little bit on the notion of whether or not it would interfere with Sabbath for Jews, and it certainly would for many more Orthodox colleagues. Certainly, I'm the spouse of clergy. It would mean on a practical level that my spouse could not come. However, I want to be clear that there is no day in the week for which everyone could come. There is some way in which anyone will be excluded on any particular day. Folks that are on second shift will never be able to come to a town meeting as long as it is matching this schedule. And so I think it's worth leaving the door open to the idea that there are multiple different times over the years that town meeting happens, and that not everybody will be able to make every single one of those town meetings. But by having it locked into one particular form, you end up excluding the same group every single time. So I just thought I would throw that. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Good evening. Dan Tiber, 162 Hay Meadow.
Welcome.
I think I echoed the last couple of people, including Mr. Goldberg. The Saturday is not probably the best option, but it's something in the right direction. So I've lived here for 11 years, attended many town meetings, some of which include significant debate and votes with well arguments on both sides. I'm not here to discuss any of those results. It's really the results of a democratic process, and I support that. But it's become evident to me that the current voting structure is not a true representation of our town. Someone noted that it was only 3,000 people voted on the Royal Estates votes. That's just a fraction of what, and my spouse isn't here, so 50% of all these votes are only attended by me. We can't both vote. It's inconvenient. Wednesday night, the last vote was a Wednesday evening. And the vote, and after a lengthy, an hour-long discussion, the vote went past 10 p.m. It's just not manageable for folks who have young kids to attend, to get a sitter. For both of us to attend, it's just not manageable for us to get our kids in bed at a reasonable hour. Again, 5,000 or 3,000 to 5,000 total votes. Hand votes are fine. And expeditious, but do not hold any granularity or history of voting trends, any metadata which breaks it down by voting age, gender, geography, and so on, And again, I don't have a definitive answer. I think this is a step in the right direction. What I would love to decide if there's a committee that we can form, a way to be more inclusive and to find additional ways that we can have more people vote. Just a larger, more democratic process where more people can have a vote rather than 50% of my family or your family. That's all I'm asking for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Gerald Brecker, 488 Pleasant Street.
Welcome.
The notion that town meeting is not representative is, I think, questionable. The issues over the last 30 years that I've lived in town that have created or stemmed from controversial matters coming before the town have always gotten more people coming to town meeting than vote in town elections. If we want to change the dates of something, those absurd March dates ought to be moved to election day. Elections should happen on election day. We don't get turnout for town elections, and we've gotten more turnout at the controversy-related town meetings. We get more than 10% of the town sometimes. Plus, the notion that even a small number, I don't know, we have 300 people here tonight, is not representative is not necessarily the case. We do polling that holds up to scientific scrutiny of very small numbers of people, and if they're the right mix, then they are representative. The number of people is not the issue. Town meeting is pro forma at a certain level. It's ordinary items that get discussed. There's no great incentive for people to come out, but when you want to build the world's largest marijuana plant in our town, or you want to, some people say give away the Stevens estate, or let a mega development come in at Royal Crest, et cetera. Those were the issues that got people out. Trash fees. Once upon a time, there was a huge turnout for trash fees. So there are things that people come out for, and when they come out in very large numbers, all things considered. So I don't think we have a problem getting people out when they want to come out. And I agree, any day that you choose is going to be difficult for someone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This microphone on the left.
My name is Sharon Wandresh, 345.
Come closer.
345 Abbott Street.
Welcome.
Somebody said that the intent of these articles is good, but maybe not the solution of Saturdays. And I was wondering if there had been consideration for some kind of digital solution.
So let me answer that question. I am chair for the Massachusetts Moderators Association of something called the 2040 Committee, which is looking at what a town meeting should look like in 2040. There are efforts in the legislature to allow what we will call virtual or remote voting, but it is not allowed under general law at this moment in time. So while it is being discussed, it is not something that can be considered by our community at the moment.
So you're saying Massachusetts prohibits it?
Massachusetts prohibits that.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Sir.
Stan Novak, 26 Pembroke Road. I only used about 15 seconds of my time before, so I have a second question for you. It says any such postponement would be held on Saturday or any weekday. So is this only going to apply to postponements? And it's not going to require it to be on Saturdays. It could be any day of the week other than Sunday.
I'll answer that question too if the petitioner will allow. Number one, your reading is correct. Our meeting will in fact be called for this date on a Tuesday, and then any postponement would be required to be, as a suggestion, any of the available days. I will also tell you that Massachusetts law right now provides the moderator the unilateral authority to determine when a postponement date might take place should there be a circumstance around health or public safety and the like. But so there's additional latitude in the law as well.
Does there need to be a valid reason for the postponement, or can it just be we want it on
There
Saturday?
needs to be a nominal reason, not necessarily valid, although I would suspect and hope that you would agree that any notion that I make would in fact be valid.
Maybe.
I'll take that as begrudging. Sir.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm wondering, ethically, this feels discriminatory to me because people from a certain religious group would not be able to participate. I'm wondering if it's possible to have the attorney weigh in on whether this discriminatory impact is something that's been considered or what that would be in this
Yes,
case.
so it would be the judgment of the party, either the collective group or, in one circumstance, a moderator who would make that judgment and would take that judgment or that counsel into case. But there's no requirement under the law that would prohibit any of those dates or other dates to be utilized.
Okay, thank you. I hope ethically people will vote no given this. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Jennifer Goldman, 28 Jared Place. 2 points. One, my husband is Jewish, and for the greater good, I would rather see more people at town meeting. And secondly, it's an or. So it's adding Saturday to the Monday through Friday. Never once would I insist on a Saturday-only meeting. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Final comment, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
We'll indulge our neighbors.
Laura Craig Coleman, 58 Fernwood. I just noticed that we've been talking a lot about the Saturday amendment and not really at all about the one that talks about making it possible to go into June. But this is the one that has a select board recommendation of unfavorable action. So can I ask why?
You may. And I was going to get there. Please.
In discussing this article, the administration and the select board do not support holding town meeting in the month of June permanently. June is too close to the end of the fiscal year, and actions taken at town meeting help the town to close out its financial matters in a timely manner. The town manager reviewed other areas, and we actually have, out of 36 towns that we looked at, we have only 2 have town meetings later than ours.
And did the select board make a recommendation on the prior article?
The select board voted favorable action on Article 15.
Thank you very much. A final comment?
Brad Howell, 43 Phillips.
Maybe not, but go right ahead. I apologize.
Brad Howell, 43 Phillips Court. I would put forth a follow up the question about ethics and discrimination. A practice or policy that you know would create an obstacle for a certain group of people in our community would be, in my mind, considered discriminatory because you intentionally know, or no, not intentionally, but you now know that it would create an obstacle, knowingly create an obstacle. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Hi, Chloe Goldman, 50 Mill Pond.
Welcome.
So am I correct in asking that town meeting cannot be on a Sunday, right?
Town meeting can be on a Sunday.
Oh, okay. But it's not currently like in the rules, is it?
There are no rules as to when a town meeting in effect can be, in practice, be postponed to.
Was I mistaken in hearing the Monday through Thursday?
That is the petitioner's request, yes.
Okay.
To establish that as bylaw.
Okay. I apologize. Thank you.
Nothing to apologize for. I think we're ready for the question, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to do the first article only. Article 15. All those in favor of Article 15 as moved, please raise your red card. All those opposed, please raise your red card. I declare that the motion does not pass. We will now move to Article 16. This requires a 2/3 vote in favor. All those in favor, please raise your red card. All those opposed, the motion does not carry. Thank you very much. Article 17. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Moderator, Mr. Moderator, may I make a request to move reconsideration of articles previously voted?
You may, but we're beginning to establish a rule in our community by practice that we try not to just do reconsideration for tactical reasons.
Okay.
We want to reserve reconsideration if in fact there's a principal problem with a particular article.
Okay.
You are very welcome to move it, however, and I will put it in front of the meeting.
I'm just asking a question. So
Okay.
Thank you for your
You're
answer.
very, very welcome. Article 17, if a petitioner would please present themselves. And while that's happening, I invite Dr. Mosier, Mark Mosier, to join us at the remote questions table. We have a gift for Dr. Mosier.
Mr. Moderator, I am Laura Parks, 1478 Great Pond Road. I move the article as written in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made. Is there a second? I hear a second. And I understand we have a petitioner and another, the technical word is stranger, somebody who is not eligible to vote at our meeting, but as we earlier acquiesced. Please introduce yourself.
Well, hello, Mr. Moderator. My name is Erica Parks. I live at 1478 Great Pond Road.
Welcome, Erica.
Thank you. And I would like to acknowledge that I am not yet eligible to vote. Article 17, the North Andover Humane Pet Store Ordinance, would close the puppy mill to pet store pipeline by preventing pet stores from selling puppy mill puppies as well as cats, rabbits, and guinea pigs bred in facilities that prioritize profit over the welfare of animals. Puppy mills typically keep animals crowded in small wire cages with little exercise or veterinary care. They often separate puppies from their mothers at a young age and are trucked across the country to be sold in pet stores. As a result of these conditions, puppies can carry infectious diseases that can eventually lead to a public health risk. Families often spend hundreds or thousands of dollars in veterinary bills trying to save a sick or even genetically compromised puppy. Article 17 is about animal protection as well as consumer protection. Importantly, I'd like to note that Article 17 does allow for pet stores to partner with shelters and rescue organizations to make puppies, kittens, rabbits, and guinea pigs available in-store. Many neighboring towns and cities and even other states are enacting similar laws. This would put North Andover ahead of the game, joining 12 other Massachusetts towns and cities that have successfully adopted similar measures and more than 440 communities nationwide with no cost to the town. I'd also like to be clear that this would not impact small and responsible breeders as they already sell directly to families. This bylaw impacts inhumane breeding facilities that use pet stores as a retail outlet and keep the cruelty hidden from the consumer. Article 17 protects public health, consumers, and the welfare of animals. It makes our town a more humane community. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Do we have any questions or queries?
Helen Picard, 447 Waverly Road.
Welcome.
Thank you. Are there any businesses in town that would be impacted by this right now?
There is a Petco in North Andover that would be affected by this because they do sell guinea pigs. However, it is written in the warrant, as I had previously mentioned, that this article does allow the Petco to partner with an existing animal shelter to keep these animals in store. However, they would not be able to sell them for profit. And in addition, the article does include an effective date, so the Petco does have time to apply these changes. Thank you.
Sir.
I just want to speak in favor of this. I think this is one of the best articles that have come before town meeting in a long time. I work very closely with Sweet Paws, with a lot of other dog rescues, and these dog breeders torture these dogs. And if you've seen some of the videos that I've seen, it's horrendous. Normally, I'm the small government guy. I'm a conservative. But this is something that I'm going to be happy to vote yes on. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Hi there, Alex Walsh, 39 Stonington Street. So I would just like to
Welcome.
mention that I work at a dog shelter, and it is, of course, our number one priority to always help these dogs, make sure that they are in the best condition they can be. And so I would just like to encourage everyone to vote to just help these dogs. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I think we're ready for the question. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please raise your card. Thank you. All those opposed? The motion carries by a significant majority. We now move on to financial articles. We're spending, somewhere around $150 million, folks, so you might wish to pay some attention. The first article is Article 18. Do I hear a motion?
Yes. Mr. Moderator, I move the motion as it appears in our book and on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Today I am presenting Town Meeting Article 18, the town's fiscal year 24.
Excuse me, one moment. 7 minutes on the clock.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The town's fiscal year 24 capital improvement plan. For those of you that don't know, we do a 5-year capital improvement plan annually. We have items that are particularly tangible assets that cost more than $25,000 and have a life of 5 years. Items that are less than $50,000 we typically include in our operating budget. But anything that's over $50,000 is part of the plan that you're seeing today. The fiscal year 24 plan, which was available in the town's budget, includes 25 projects for a total of $28.9 million. There's routine items like IT upgrades, playground maintenance, the typical things you always see, but there's exciting new items like the implementation of our ADA facilities plan, upgrades in this auditorium, designed for the gym at the ABECC, and a fueling station at DPW. Most important to me is Facilities Master Plan 2 continues with the bond for the middle school construction. Our funding plan for fiscal year 24 is to use $6.3 million in free cash, $820,000 in Chapter 90, which is money that is from the state and can be used for regional roadways. The bond for the middle school is $21.8 million, and I'll talk a little bit more about that project towards the end. Retained earnings from water, which is like the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund free cash, is $425,000, and retained earnings from sewer, again, like the free cash of the sewer account, $750,000. We are advising against using debt this year for routine items as we have in the past few years because we are saving for our 16-year Facilities Master Plan 2 plan. We are going to be using a bond to pay for the middle school, although we will not actually take that bond until close to the end of fiscal year 24. We're looking at a 25 to 30-year bond with payments around $1.3 to $1.4 million a year, and rates currently are around 4%. At the end of town meeting, after we've taken all of our free cash articles, we will have approximately $5.1 million in free cash left, which will basically, at the end of the fiscal year, go away and then be recertified for us to use again next year for items like these. We do that every year, typically carrying around $5 million in this savings account. This year, we're continuing the Facilities Master Plan 2, and this is the list of projects that are in that plan. There is a special project site on our town website and on the school's website where you can learn more about that 15-year plan. As you know from last year, the order of the projects is the middle school first and the Kittredge second. We started the design of the middle school in the last fiscal year, and in this year, we're going for that construction bond, as we told you. We picked this order because it addresses the middle school first, reflects the MSBA funding we've been awarded for the Kittredge School, and puts the most expensive projects towards the front to avoid escalation. We also did this to use our decreasing debt to our advantage by matching project costs to our increased capacity, limiting the impact on residents. How are we funding this plan? For the middle school, we're using debt with no new cost to taxpayers, and in future years, combination of debt capacity, free cash, and capital stabilization account. Again, this year there is zero impact to the average single family for fiscal year 24 due to Facilities Master Plan 2. We're capturing and saving debt capacity over the last 3 years in line with our planning, allows us to do this with no impact. Here's what the addition is going to look like. This is a view from the back of the building where you take a right to exit up the hill. We're extending the wing to the left of the cafeteria as you look at the building. This slide shows a bird's eye view of the site. The existing recess space is being relocated to the space created by the push-out of the road. The outdoor space will have a basketball net and foursquare, and the bottom portion of the recess area has intentionally been left open so students can determine what they would like to see there. The addition will be approximately 25,000 square feet. The renovation is primarily floors, asbestos mitigation, reinforcement of the roof, ceiling windows, plumbing, HVAC, and ceilings. This is the first floor. It will have approximately 7 classroom spaces, including a STEM and science lab and office space. The intended uses of these spaces are based on today's needs. This is the second floor. It will house approximately 8 classrooms and some small classroom space. This is the timeline. With regards to the timing of the project, we have to phase it so we continue to educate students and our primary goal of keeping them safe. We plan on starting construction on the addition this summer, and if all goes according to plan, we'll be complete by next summer, and then we'll begin the renovations. The plan is to complete all work by the start of 25-26 school year, which is also consistent with our budget plan for operations. Finally, the Great Pond Road Committee has asked me to give a brief update on their work that they've been doing. As you know, at last town meeting, the town voted to purchase the property. The town's watershed plan, water capacity plan, and open space plan all called for the town to work to acquire properties along Lake Chickawick. The Select Board appointed an 11-member steering committee that has been working endlessly to try to come up with a solution for this property. It was intended that the committee would have a reuse recommendation for this town meeting, but given the complexity and the number of options, they've asked for more time. They have secured $100,000 in funding to engage the services of a professional consulting firm, and they are looking at the historic building, condition survey, structural review, environmental impacts, etc. As you know, approximately 3 of the 7.8 acres are encumbered by a conservation restriction. And just so you know, mitigation measures began immediately after the purchase. The oil tank was removed, a new oil tank was installed outside, there was plumbing weatherization, sump pump, roof repairs, exterior security lighting, a fire alarm, temperature and water alarms. The steering committee has considered numerous public and private options, and over the last 6 months has met with residents, adjacent property owners, builders, and community groups. As a result of that, they've committed to 5 decision-making principles: protect the water supply, provide open space, respect appropriate levels of historic preservation, provide recreational opportunities, and also fiscal responsibility. I appreciate all the work they have done on this and look forward to having them discuss the 4 alternative uses for the properties that they've thought through and are using that technical assistance to help ascertain the feasibility of. Retain and modify the house as required for public uses, convert the house to a 3-season facility pavilion-like structure for public uses, remove the house and maintain the property for recreation and small boat usage, and assess whether or not a portion of the property could be built upon for a private residence. Again, I thank all of those members for their continued effort on this. Thank you.
Sorry, that won't be my first mistake of the night, or my last, I should say. I understand that we have some recommendations on the article. The Select Board?
The Select Board has voted favorable action.
Thank you very much. And the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee has voted favorable action.
Thank you. And the School Committee?
The School Committee has voted favorable action.
Thank you very much. Now we're ready for discussion, should there be any. Do we have any discussion about this article? Seeing none, I think we're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the article as presented, raise your card. Those opposed? We'll declare that a majority vote. Thank you very much. An overwhelming majority vote. Congratulations. I will share with you this number, or the query about this number has been batted about for a bit, and that is how many people have registered voters have attended town meeting. And this evening, 512 registered voters have chosen to do our business today. Thank you very, very much. Article 19, report of the Community Preservation Committee. Mr. Shearhart, do I have a motion?
Tim Shearhart, 283 Campbell Road. Mr. Moderator, I move to receive the Community Preservation Committee report. List of approved projects is set forth on Article 19 and is also listed on the screen above. To raise, transfer, and appropriate from the Community Preservation.
Stop.
You want to cut it short?
Done. You've moved what's displayed on the screen.
$2,197,864 is what
unnecessary. Thank you very much.
However,
is there?
I would like to
one
do
second,
one more thing,
please.
sir.
We have a motion. Is there a second? The motion is made and seconded. Have you discussion, sir, or presentation?
I have a brief presentation.
Thank you. 5 minutes on the clock.
If that. Oh, thank you. Did I kill it? No. Community Preservation Committee is made up of 9 members, of which there are currently 8 active. We had 1 resignation because he decided to get elected to the Select Board, Mr. Roach. But I do want to make a special shout out to our 2 great support staff, Jean and Bernadette. Very important, our Community Preservation Act fund balances. We started out the calendar year with roughly $15.3 million as the calendar year. Of that, however, $9.5 million is committed to open CPA projects previously authorized by town meetings. One word is encumbered. That gives us a balance moving forward for the calendar year of $5.8 million. We do anticipate receiving $3.3 million in receipts for the rest of this year and fiscal year 24, giving us a balance of $9.2 million to appropriate in some fashion. The CPC is recommending appropriation for fiscal year 24 projects of $2.2 million, leaving us a potential balance of around $7 million come the end of the year. The details of the fiscal year 24 recommended appropriation following can be found in warrant article 19, page 20 of your town warrant document, and on the screen above. Again, it totals $2,197,864. This pie chart summarizes the CPC recommendation for fiscal year 24's $2,197,864 appropriation. Roughly $200,000 to be spent on affordable housing, $515,000 on open space, $87,000 in recreation, and the balance, $1.3 million on historic preservation. I'm sure you're all curious as far as how we've spent the money since the initiation and since inception of the Community Preservation Act in town, which by ballot, spring of 2001, was authorized. The all-time appropriations have totaled $44.4 million during this time and have been allocated 20% to affordable housing, open space of 30%, historic preservation of 26%, and recreation of 24%. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. True to your word, I now understand that the Select Board has a recommendation to make.
Select Board votes favorable action.
Thank you. And the Planning Board has a recommendation?
See, I did it too, Mark. The Planning Board recommends favorable action.
You're in good company, sir. And lastly, the Finance Committee has a recommendation.
Yeah, the Finance Committee recommends favorable action on all projects except for number 9 and number 10.
So, in order to do that, do I hear an amendment?
Not from the Finance Committee, sir.
Okay, so we have just one motion in front of us, and that motion is for the entire package. If folks wish to support the entire package, they will vote yes. If you wish to support all but 9 or 10 and you vote yes, that means 9 or 9 and 10 rather, you don't wish to support. That means that 9 and 10 get passed with a yes vote. So the only way to assure that 9 or 10 are accepted is by making an amendment. Just want to educate the group. Sir.
George Leonard, 1000 Dale Street.
Welcome.
Item 10 just says boundary wall. Which boundary wall are we talking about?
It's within the interior of the Ridgewood Cemetery, and it's on the Marblehead side of the road. It'd be on that side of the cemetery. It's along an area of the cemetery. If you go through, you have some beautiful plots, beautiful walls. This is an area where the stone wall has been decimated by stone robbers, and it is down to its foundation, and it needs to be repaired and replaced.
Yes, I just want to know which wall we're talking about. There's a lot of boundary walls in town.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other queries? Any other discussion?
Helen Picard, 447 Waverly Road. I'm interested to know why the Finance Committee is recommending not on 9 and 10.
We can ask.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee has a deep appreciation of the process that excuse me, my allergies are killing me today. Has deep appreciation for the process the community preservation follows to review project applications, and has the utmost confidence in their application of legal standards for the use of the CPC funds. We feel it's the Finance Committee's job to bring forth additional commentary regarding whether the projects are the best possible use of funds. And this year, we did not have a majority support for the restoration of the boundary wall or for the preservation of the barn, 419 Johnson Street, and per our bylaws. Without a majority support, it means we give an unfavorable recommendation.
Is there anyone who would speak to why they did not support those two?
You're invited if you choose.
It was kind of, I think, a nuanced decision.
I'm sorry, please identify yourself.
I'm sorry, my name is Christine Allen. I live on 5 Beacon Hill Boulevard. I'm the vice chair of the committee. The committee had lots of discussions. We were definitely split on it. And you were asking specifically about both or just the...
I would like to know about each.
For the boundary wall, to us, we actually had members that went out and took a look around where it was. It was kind of hard to find. It's not something that's easily accessible to people that are walking around the cemetery. It affected perhaps a couple of the homes that were close by. It seemed like a very low priority for such the high amount of money that was going to be spent on it, on replacing rocks. As far as the barn was concerned, we were a little uncertain as to what the uses for the barn would be. It was property that was purchased, with the barn knowingly on it, and then, looking to see it restored. It's like, for what reasons? What would be the benefit to members of the town? And again, it's a considerable amount of money. So it was nuanced for us. And again, not that there's anything untoward about these being put forward to the CPC. That seems reasonable. Or for them to say, yes, it's within all legal qualifications for these to be presented to us and to be approved. We are actually just looking at it from what is the best way to spend these funds. We looked at it from a different perspective.
Thank you very much. Your queries are answered.
I had further query, but I'm happy to wait.
I'd ask you to wait a moment. We'll let others, please.
Brenda Reeve, 57 Olympic Lane. I have a
Welcome.
question for community preservation. It's number 6, the Stevens Coolidge Ballroom. Is that a trustees of reservation property?
It is the trustees of the reservation property.
And so why was a decision made for community preservation funds to be used for that property?
It has been determined that it is a renovation of an historic relevance. It meets all the criteria for legal purposes. But I also know, you should know that the Stevens Coolidge Estate and the town has entered into a legal agreement allowing citizens to benefit, like they've never had before, of the property and having access to the property. In particular, the students of the high school having access to the property now. The youth center having access to the property. For 2 nights of the Christmas lights, the Holiday Lights Festival, they are giving students or those who have a need complete access. All of the town will have access to the Stevens Coolidge Estate property once per month, The library passes for any time of the month, any time of the year, will be increased from 1 to 3. In addition, come wintertime, they're allowing cross-country skiing and snowshoeing on their property without exception. There's a lot of benefit that's been given back to the town from the Stevens Coolidge and the trustees of the reservation as a result of us helping them restore this mural.
So just to
Excuse me,
clarify.
questions come to me.
So just to clarify, as a town resident, it's one time per month that I have free access without having to have purchased membership at the trustees of reservation.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Sir, you're next.
Thank you. Kevin Martin, 136 Old Farm Road. I appreciate everything the CPC is doing. You mentioned there's encumbered funds, and you are the principal sponsor to something near and dear to, I think, many of us who have kids in the school system, specifically the Sportsplex that's supposed to go into the middle school in near Atkinson. There were rumors that the cost, should it move forward, have inflated significantly.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to limit any commentary that you have to a specific article.
I will.
And please do.
So my point is, in your budget, have you taken into account an increase potentially to further that project? Because if it has increased in cost and it is no longer encumbered, do you have within your budget the ability to continue to support it? Thank you.
That's a good question. Again, we've only appropriated $2.2 million for the applications that came our way. The middle school field project was not one of them. We do have a balance which can be decided in future time of, what did I say, 6 point? I should know this. 6.9, almost $7 million that can perhaps be used for that kind of thing, as well as other projects. Sure. But no, specifically for fiscal year 24, we did not consider anything more for the middle school project.
It is a contextual item that's being discussed, but it is not specifically in front of us relative to this motion.
Understood.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, ma'am.
Andrea O'Donnell, 14 Sargent Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm also concerned about item 6 being included here. Stevens Estate was closed to many of us in the evenings. We used to be able to go there in the evenings. There was no charge. We could sit on the lawn. We could walk the grounds. It's been closed. I think $56,000 is a lot of money for that. Those are privileges to have been withdrawn and taken away from us. A lot of people used to enjoy that property, and now we can't.
Well, that is coming back our way, right? And there's other things besides that. One of the things that I got hit on a while ago, I personally got hit, was taking photographs of my daughter's graduation, graduation type pictures. Those pictures, prom pictures, graduation pictures, will be allowed at the Stevens Coolidge Estate, as amongst many other things that they're giving us.
Well, the trustees make a lot of, the trustees
Questions come to
it's
me.
not a question, it's a statement. The trustees make a lot of money themselves in their own right, and I think they can afford upkeep on the property themselves on the mural, especially with access being withdrawn from a lot of citizens of North Andover.
Thank you. Ms. Picard, if I could ask you to step aside, we'll allow others who have not spoken yet. And please.
Hello, Carolyn Zimmer, 135 South Bradford
Welcome.
Street. I'm asking a question to educate myself. I'm just curious. I see 13 projects. I'm curious how many you actually received. Do you know how many applications you received for CPA funds this year?
15, 16? 16 projects were received. I'm sorry, it was 16, and one of them we determined was not appropriate at all, and so we voted against it. One was actually, the application was removed, and I forget the other. I'm looking at Brian. this history.
Thank you. Your question answered?
But it's basically, we had 16 projects, of which 13 have been approved.
And other,
Excuse me?
That's fine, thank you.
No, if you have another question, you can ask it through me. Okay, thank you.
Susan Haltmeyer, 90 Herrick Road.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm wondering what room is the ballroom? I was just there for the Spring Blooms event, and we looked inside the house, so I'm not sure I know which of those rooms is the ballroom.
It'd be the second floor.
We're not allowed to go to the second floor. Why should we spend money to repair the ballroom on the second floor when they don't let us go up there? I think it's a terrible idea. I agree with the previous speaker. I grew up across the street. We used to go there all the time. We could have picnic lunches. We could walk the grounds. And now we have to walk all the way around onto the other entrance, and you can't even walk there. And I have no interest in supporting anything that they let them pay for it.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Mr. Moderator, I have some procedural questions. So
Your name and address, please.
Sorry, Michael Liss, 30 Leanne Drive. So as you stated earlier, I believe, right now we only have the option to vote yes or no for the whole package.
That is correct.
In the interest of democracy, would it be permissible for me to propose an amendment that would remove items 6, 9, and 10?
So the neatest way of doing so is to ask us to take leave and accept certain, whichever items that you wish, from the motion. We'll choose to vote that or not, and then we can address the entire issue.
All right, excellent.
Are you making the motion?
I'm so moved.
So let's be very clear to people. You're asking us to do what?
To remove items 6, 9, and 10 from the proposed list of objects to be funded.
So what we're going to do now, do I have a second for that? The motion is made and seconded. So what we're going to do now is vote to remove 6, 9, and 10 from the article. Then if it passes, then we will vote on what is remaining. If it does not pass, then we will vote on the entire matter as initially presented. Are we clear? Do we have any discussion about removing 6, 9, and 10 from the motion for consideration? I'll give you the opportunity.
I have looked at the opportunities available to the citizens for the Stevens Coolidge Ballroom mural, the fact that you haven't been on the second floor. The room is under renovation, will be under renovation, needs renovation. They've asked the town to help them out with $59,600, of which they, in exchange, have recognized the need to do more for the town in opening up the services, opening up the facility to the youth, the high school, to the citizens, and I think it's a good, open relationship we developed as a result of this request and this application. On the case of the preservation of the barn, the money that we've actually carved down from, more was asked, much more was asked. And what we're doing right now is preserving one of the last historical barns that this town has. And at the very beginning, the primary use will be to help store Ridgewood items so that more space can be used for cemetery plots. Finally, on the boundary wall, this is an existing boundary wall, and I too have gone through it, and it isn't hard to find. And I can tell you right now that as you go through, you can actually see in much of the cemetery names of Farnham, Foster, Ingalls, Sargent, Kittredge, Green, Abbott, Johnson, in beautiful parts of the cemetery. In the newer parts of the cemetery by this wall that needs to be repaired, Ducharma, Calvert, Bedio, Westling, Dombrowski, Wagner, Golan, Remy. In my opinion, they too deserve a beautiful cemetery.
Thank you. Now we're discussing only the exception of 6, 9, and 10, whether you are in support or opposed to that amendment? Ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Lynn Wenzel, 294 Chestnut Street.
Welcome.
And full disclosure, I am on the property committee of Stevens Coolidge House and Garden.
Thank you for that.
Along with other members of the North Andover community that are part of the property committee. What we do is we are the representatives from North Andover that are giving the feedback of the town and the community to the trustees to do the things that they are doing that Bill has talked about. I would like to comment about the millions of dollars of renovations they have put into the house. So there is if you've been at the house, there is a mural on the first floor that involved millions of dollars of restoration from water damage that happened in the many, many years that nothing was done to that house. So the trustees have put in a lot of money to the house and to the gardens. And what they ask is that people, because it is a membership, it is to become a member. If you aren't a member, there are passes at the library that you can get so that you can go visit. If you are a member, all you have to do is go through the gate on Andover Street. There's a little sign there that says members are welcome at all times. So you can enter the property just like you did before. But what they ask is that you help to support them by buying a membership. And if you can't afford a membership, go to the library. But I would just say I would like to keep that on there so that can be open up to all of the members of the community of North Andover. It's a beautiful mural. It's in sepia colors. It's done by the same artist that did the mural on the ground floor, and you won't see it if it isn't renovated. So I would urge it to be kept in the budget, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I want to compliment the speaker for specifically noting her conflict of interest. And I invite all others who may potentially have a conflict of interest to so state.
Hello, Carolyn Zimmer, 135 South Bradford Street again. I would just like to make a request, if before we make the vote, if you could put the slide back up there where you listed the projects, but the one that included who is the applicant, not just what the purpose of it was. No, the other one where it said like Ridgewood Cemetery project, whatever.
This is your presentation that
Thank
she's
you.
referring to.
The one.
Recommendations. Recommendations.
Is that the one, recommendations?
Recommendations, yes.
I'm conflicting with this guy. Is that the slide?
No. Recommendations. The list of there you are.
There you go.
Okay. Sir.
John McCarron, 75 Sterling Lane.
Welcome, John.
My question is on the bond. Is that the one? Is that the red bond on Johnson Street?
It's the barn that's in the back. If you can't even really see it from Johnson Street.
Where's it actually located?
No, it's not the red barn. I know which one you're talking about.
Okay,
It's not the red barn.
Where is it actually located?
It's
What's that?
it's basically across the street from Marble Ridge, where Marble Ridge tees into Johnson Street.
Okay, thank you. My recommendation is to spend the money, because once we lose it, we lose it. We're not going to be able to get it back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sasha Weinrich, 21 Sawyer Road. Mr. Moderator, could you please clarify for everyone exactly what Mr. Liss's proposal was, and does that mean that he is going to be taking all three of those articles out of the vote, and then they'd be voted on separately, or would there be two votes?
They would be taken out of the main motion. So what's happening if you vote affirmatively, 6, 9, and 10 would no longer be considered by the community for funding. If you vote in the negative, 6, 9, and 10 would be considered for funding going forward.
And if they were considered, would they be taken together or separately?
They would be, right now, the only motion that would be in front of us would be the entire group of all recommended articles by the CPC.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Hi, Laura Craig Coleman, 58 Fernwood Street. Question is, there are two questions. One is if the amendment is accepted and those are removed, does that money that would have been allocated to those just go back into the general fund for the Community Preservation Commission?
The answer is yes.
Okay. And second is it possible to change the amendment to consider those separately instead of just not considering them?
It may be appropriate depending on the vote that happens next.
Okay. Thank you.
We're having some procedural fun today. Only moderators care. Go ahead.
Melinda Perrone, 65 Meadowwood Road in North Andover. And I have to declare that in our neighborhood, we were number maybe 15 or 16 of the projects that were considered this year. And my husband worked very hard with the committee to request, and it was felt not to be culturally appropriate. I am all, and so is he, for all of these, number 1 through 14, because we need that culture in North Andover. If you look right behind, we live behind the Dollar Tree store. We don't have many historical structures over there. So we'll give up our project and request for you to preserve these projects because we know that the committee worked very, very hard in choosing the projects. They didn't choose our projects, but we'll be next up. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Final comments, sir? Perhaps?
Gerald Brecker, 488 Pleasant Street. I think that, and is it a conflict of interest to say that I'm a member of the trustees? I don't think so, but in any event. The Stevens Coolidge Estate is a jewel in this town. It's one of the most important assets of the town, not only as a beautiful building and grounds and the programs that are run, but it has history involving the people who lived there, the people who built it, etc. So we ought to be very careful about giving the back of our hand to such an important institution in the town, over $60,000. Given that there are so many other benefits that the town gets. And if we say to the trustees, you're not getting this money, I don't think it enhances the relationship between the town and the trustees, whereas the negotiation that's apparently been carried out does enhance that. And whatever the trustees have agreed to do for the town now, they'll agree to do more over time because we're being good partners. If we basically, as I say, give them the back of our hand, poisons the well, and it makes them, they have a lot of other properties they could be spending money on. Why we would want to diss them this way is beyond my comprehension, particularly over such a small amount of money, by the way, none of which comes out of any taxpayer's pocket. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator? Point of order, Mr.
One moment. The gentleman is correct. Being a member of the Board of the Trustees is not a conflict. If he were a board director, that would in fact be a conflict. You have a point of order.
Yes, point of order, Mr. Moderator. Just because I believe they should be considered separately, I would like to request that we have separate votes on 6, 9,
We're
and 10,
going to
if
deal
that's possible.
only with one amendment at the moment.
Okay. All right.
Aidan Loth, 12 Lavender Circle.
Welcome.
I have a clarification question. Why is it that the town is giving money to fund these projects and the Stevens Coolidge is not paying for it themselves?
Does anybody wish to answer that question?
I can't answer for them. I can guess as a financial guy that they need money as part of their budget in order to enhance the entire property, which they've been doing and spending millions of dollars to renovate. So this is just our contribution. And in exchange for that contribution, we're getting a lot of benefits, and as someone just mentioned, in forging a better partnership with the Stevens Coolidge Estate folks on a going forward basis.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, sir.
Why is it that we are spending thousands of dollars to be able to walk on the property?
Does anybody wish to answer the gentleman's question? I'm not certain people heard your question again.
Why is the entire town spending thousands of money so that we can walk on the property?
Thousands of dollars of spending money on the wall on the property?
No, so one may walk on
Yeah,
the property.
the argument I heard in response was...
Sir, you'll speak to me.
I remember hearing that in return for us spending money to repair the wall, we are now being allowed to do different actions on the property.
That's correct.
Why is it that we have to spend all the money to repair the wall in order to do that in the first place?
It is the trustees of the reservation who own the property. It is a private trust, and they have membership fees in order to help them with all of their properties, including the Symmes Coolidge estate. It's a private property, just like any other private property. They can set the rules and the ground rules for who can walk on their property. In exchange for the money that they were looking for from us to help with the mural, we're getting some great benefit. And by the way, one of the things that the high school students will be able to do will help with the actual gardening and learning how to garden at the Symmes Coolidge estate. The items that go on and on and on as part of this deal are very valuable.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, sir. Ma'am?
Mary Foley, 153 Chadwick Street. I agree that the Symmes Coolidge property is a true gem. They've done a good job upgrading it. However, I was very concerned a few years ago to learn that I did not have the right to use it, which I have enjoyed that property all my life until they began to charge admission or request that I become a member. And when I cued them about that, I was told that I could use the library pass. And I questioned further to find that their jewel property in Beverly, the Castle Estate, as part of an agreement with the town of Beverly, the residents have free admission and free access to the Castle Estate anytime they want to go. That I think it's wonderful that they've given some benefits to the high school students, but as far as the general community, I miss it. I miss my Symmes Coolidge visits. So that's my only comment.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jim LaFawn, 329 Osgood Street.
Welcome.
And as full disclosure, I am a member of the Trustees of Reservations, although I do not sit in any boards or committees. But I am also a member of the Board of Trustees of the Ridgewood Cemetery Association. And I'd just like to comment that one of the things that's not being talked about is the partnership that nonprofit organizations try to forge with communities where they have properties and where they conduct activities. Nonprofits, in many cases, have limited ways of raising revenue. For Ridgewood Cemetery, for instance, it's through the sale of grave lots and through interments that we provide. And as the cemetery gets built out, as there is less and less property available, our revenue decreases. And we have been before the town, the CPA, in the past to ask them for money for the restoration. We have a master plan for the cemetery, much like the town does for its properties, and we've been trying to adhere to that. And yes, one of the sources of revenue is CPA grants, as well as the revenue that we get through the sale of grave lots. Our projects, we're a non-paid board. We're all volunteers. We're all members of the community, and we're just trying to do what's best for the town. I would vote as a member of both the Ridgewood Cemetery Association and the Trustees of Reservations. I'd vote against this amendment. I'd like to see all of these articles passed because there's a lot of great things that are done. Also, historic preservation doesn't necessarily mean that we're always going to have access to all of these things. With the Trustees of Reservations, now just the trustees, it takes a tremendous amount of money to keep all of these properties going. We have Wire Hill in town, which is just open space, no charge at all, people can go there. And there are costs that they have to assume for that as well. Again, I vote, please vote no on this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our last two comments.
Earl Svensson, 201 Haymeadow Road, North Andover.
Welcome.
I agree. The property, the trustee's property is a gem for North Andover. I think one thing I've learned from the conversations that have ensued here is there needs to be some work on the communication between the citizens of North Andover and the trustees. And I know in particular a lot of people were concerned when they could no longer access this property from the old center. So I know there were people up here commenting, they were on the property committee, whatever, and I think going forward we need to do some work in better understanding the relationship between the town and the trustees and the Symmes Coolidge estate.
Thank you, sir.
Laura Craig Coleman at 58 Fernwood. I just found this article about the trustees acquiring 66 acres at Moraine Farm in Beverly, in part from a $1.1 million grant from the City of Beverly's Community Preservation Fund. So I think $60,000 compared to $1.1 million still gets us some access, maybe in proportion to the grants offered. Of the many lists of things that are put up there, $60,000 is not actually very much. It is very expensive to do historic preservation. Like historic materials need to be used. Many specialty craftsmen need to be used. It is an incredibly complicated process that everyone in town benefits from, even if you have to go to the library to get a pass, which is maybe a minor annoyance compared to losing all of these things forever.
I'm going to give you leave. You snuck up, please. That's it.
Thank you. Mary DeSalt, 5 Oak Ave, North Andover. I live near the Symmes Coolidge estate, and I hear the frustration of people at the initial move of Symmes Coolidge when they first made the restoration. I think they clearly realized it was a mistake and changed their policies in many ways. I think there's room for continued communication along the lines people have been talking about. But I do want to note that while you actually can go walk there anytime you want. No, they've become very accepting of anyone walking in the property. Anyone can go, you don't actually, anyway. It's very easy. You can enjoy that property all you want, whenever you want, pretty much.
Thank you.
I vote no on taking those away from the...
Thank you for the discussion. Let's be very clear now. We're ready to vote. We are going to be voting only relative to Articles 6, or rather lines 6, 9, and 10, the highlighted 6, 9, and 10. The amendment is to remove 6, 9, and 10 from the main motion. So if you are in favor of removing them from the main motion, please raise your red card and vote in the affirmative. Thank you. If you are against removing 6, 9, and 10, raise your red card. Thank you very much. The amendment fails. We'll now move to the main motion. And the main motion is everything that is listed. We can take out the highlights on 6, 9, and 10, please. Are we ready for the main motion? Yes. Thank you. All those in favor of that which was recommended by the Community Preservation Committee and the main motion initially made, please raise your red card. Thank you. Those opposed, please raise your red card. The motion carries by a significant majority. Thank you. We are moving now to Article 20. Do I have a motion for Article 20?
Yes. Mr. Moderator, I move to adopt Article 20 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made. Is there a second? I'd like to get paid next year if somebody would make a second. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Does the Select Board have a recommendation?
We voted favorable action.
Thank you. And does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, we voted favorable action.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as made, please raise your card. Thank you very much. Those opposed, raise your card. I declare it a unanimous vote. We're now going to move to Article 22. Many would consider this to be the most important article of the day. It is our appropriation for the general fund. I'm going to allow 15 minutes of discussion. Yes. Are you ready? Or are you going to do it here?
I believe Donovan goes first.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. You're going to go first. I apologize. So let's first have a motion. You can do it from there. That's all right.
Yeah, I don't remember it, though.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Moderator, move to adopt Article 22 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Thank you very much. No worries. Is there a second to that motion? The motion is made and seconded. Mr. O'Connell, as chair of the Finance Committee, is going to take up to 5 minutes. Immediately, we will go to the town manager and to the superintendent of schools, put a total of 15 minutes on the clock.
We'll try and make it like a NASCAR thing where they come right in and...
That's exactly right. And
All
you
right.
get the opportunity to block them as well if you wish.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and thank you for coming tonight. My name is Denman O'Connell. I'm honored to stand before you as the chair of the North Andover Finance Committee. As members of the Finance Committee, we have a crucial role in comprehending, scrutinizing, and providing recommendations on all facets of municipal finance, representing the interests of you, our town residents. Tonight, I would like to discuss the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2024 and highlight some key points from the Finance Committee's observations. The proposed budget for all town and school services and facilities totals $128.4 million, excuse me, my allergies are bad today, with $68.5 million allocated to support municipal services and $61.3 million allocated to support the schools. Property taxes contribute the majority, amounting $96 million or 73% of our revenue. Local receipts account for $11.6 million or 10%. State aid provides $13.7, which is 10%. And other sources, including free cash, contribute, $9.4 million, which is 7%. Regarding expenditures, the town's general fund budget amounts to $128.5. Municipal services, including general operations, police, fire, account for $26.4, which is 20.5%. And shared expenses such as employee benefits, insurance, and IT amount to $24.9 million, which is about 19%. The school department's funding, along with regional school assessments, represents the largest portion of the fiscal year 2024 budget, at $61.3 million or 48%. Debt services for capital improvement projects make up $4.2 million, which is about 3%. The capital and reserves account for $10.6 million, which is 8%. Lastly, other expenses, including overlay and state assessments, amount to 1.1, which is, less than 1%. The proposed budget for the water and sewer enterprise funds, which are self-sustaining funds using revenue from their operations, is $11.6 million. As a Finance Committee, we remain confident that the town administration's ability to keep North Andover on strong financial footing. We believe that the town administration has developed a smart and well-structured budget for fiscal year 24, addressing both short-term needs and long-term goals. The town's solid fiscal position enables us to make progress delivering Facilities Master Plan 2 in a fiscally responsible manner, minimizing the impact on the average taxpayer. So I'm pleased to inform you that the Finance Committee, as we've noted, has recommended favorable action on, obviously we already passed it, the fiscal year 24 capital improvement plan, the operating budget, and all the enterprise fund budgets. The municipal department budget Oh, wait, hold on, I'm sorry. The recommended school, I want to talk about the schools a little bit. The recommended school department operating budget for fiscal year 24 is $60.3 million, representing a 5.5% increase from fiscal year 23. This increase covers the cost of level services, retaining COVID recovery services, positions funded in the previous fiscal year. It also includes additional staffing to fill new spaces created by Facilities Master Plan 2. The district will benefit from the remaining $200,000 in an ESSER 3 grant fund received last year, bringing the total budget for the school district up to $60.5 million, which is the operating. With the operating budget recommendation, all the new positions added during the last 2 years funded through grants will be incorporated into the operating budget. This ensures we continue to provide, the school department can continue to provide essential services to students dealing with impacts of the pandemic. Looking ahead, it is important to note that the proposed budget for fiscal year 24 reflects the town's commitment to maintaining a strong financial position while addressing the needs of our community, and it supports key initiatives such as Facilities Master Plan 2 and ensures the provision of essential services to residents. The Finance Committee welcomes public input and encourages residents to participate in budget hearings and provide feedback on the proposed budget. And the Finance Committee would like to reflect on the vital role that continued strong financial management plays in shaping the future of our town. As members of the Finance Committee, we have been privileged to have the responsibility to ensure that the prudent allocation of our resources and the sustainability of our community's financial well-being is adhered to. By working together with the town manager and the superintendent, and learning from past experiences and adapting to new challenges, we can continue to chart a course towards a prosperous and resilient future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's my honor to present the fiscal year 24 recommended budget. The presentation's coming. This town is presenting a balanced budget within capacity as determined by our forecasting exercises and additional information that's been learned since then. This concludes the consideration of the advice of the Revenue and Fixed Cost Committee, and this $130 million number includes the transfers to the stabilization account that you've already done tonight, as well as funding of capital using free cash, which we've already done, and is a comprehensive all-in number. This chart shows our different revenue sources and how we bring them in. As you can see, about 3/4 of our budget is funded by property taxes, and the residential property base makes up about 80% of that. The revenues for the fiscal year 24 budget, not including that free cash that we used earlier for reserves and capital one-time expenditures, is $123 million, a 4.34% increase from last fiscal year, but a $4.2 million increase in property taxes based on Proposition 2.5. New growth was about $1 million this year and is forecasted to start decreasing a bit as we move forward over the next 5 years. Our local receipts increased by $701,000, and if you could see my notes, there's an exclamation point. It's actually very exciting because it's the first time since COVID that we were able to increase our local receipts. They actually had decreased the last 2 years, so that's exciting news coming back to normal, I believe. Our budget expenditures, all in, including state assessments, capital, and reserve transfers, are $130,957,000. That does not include the water and sewer enterprise funds, which were voted previously during the consent calendar. This chart shows the 2024 expenses. Note that 46.8% number is not really a true number for the percentage that education is of the town budget. It's actually more around 67% when you include the school's portion of support services and other shared costs like health insurance. For fiscal year 24, we're seeing a 3% increase in departmental spending. The municipal departments are increasing by 5.7%, shared services by 33%, and that sounds alarming, but it's a very small budget, so when we make a change there, it looks like a big impact. And our education budget by 5.5%. Some people like percentages, some people like numbers, and so we're reflecting the numbers as well. Just a reminder about health insurance. We joined the Group Insurance Commission back in 2014. At that time, we were self-insured and appropriating $11 million for health insurance. In fiscal year 24, 10 years later, we're appropriating almost $12 million for health insurance. The Group Insurance Commission has given us a great amount of savings over that time. This was the toughest year, I think, to fund this account, mostly because the Group Insurance Commission was putting some changes forward. And additionally, we're implementing an opt-out program for employees that we anticipate seeing some savings from. Town staffing is increasing by one person. It's not really a one person, but it's a kind of contributing in a bunch of different departments to equal one. Any costs of any new employees that we do put into the budget at full-time are totally accounted for, including their health insurance, workers' comp, et cetera, and roughly costs about $17,000 to $18,000 for us to include a new employee. Just so you understand the highlights and changes in this year's budget, we have moved electricity and heating fuel from each budget for efficiency purposes. We've done this in the past for postage, phones, gasoline, et cetera. We are funding the Finance Committee reserve again. Our COLAs are at 2%. Our van is having increased hours at the senior center. We have a 33% increase in usage since fiscal year 18, which is amazing. And increased hours in HR to help us with that new opt-out program that we're going to be seeing savings from. We're implementing collective bargaining agreements. We have salary reserves for any unsettled collective bargaining agreements on the town side. We already voted the sewer and water enterprise funds, so I'm going to flip by those quickly to talk about the reserves. Some of these appropriations have already been made, including the regular stabilization and one portion of the capital stabilization account. There is an additional transfer in the budget to the capital stabilization account. Some of that is saving that debt, like I told you about before, that we're saving it to do Facilities Master Plan 2, and another is a transfer of $2 million in one-time revenue that is attributed to Amazon for the second year. And I'm going to hand it over to Superintendent Gilligan.
Good evening. My name is Greg Gilligan. I want to start by saying how honored I am to be the superintendent of the North Andover Public Schools, and thanks so many of you for your support of our schools. I present the FY24 school budget tonight, which was guided by school committee budget directives, the strategic plan, and our long-term staffing plans. The first slide I present tonight is the school department's budget long-term plan timeline. So to take you through the timeline, we started out in FY22 assessing the impact of the pandemic, adding high school positions to create a new schedule, and providing much-needed recovery services for students and staff. In FY23, this current year, we used operating funds and federal grant funds in order to provide staffing needed to meet the needs of students and recovery services. As we move forward next year, we look to transition from funding through grants to funding the positions we've added to the operating budget. As we move forward after that, FY25, we're looking to, in 26, have the positions that we need for the middle school addition. So we hopefully break ground on that this summer. Lastly, we look to maintain level services in between projects and add the appropriate staff as projects move forward. So the North Andover Public Schools budget in FY23 was $57,217,200. The total increase is 5.5%, which is $3,146,946 for an FY24 school budget of $60,364,146. It's important to note that this budget focuses on providing the additional support and positions needed for our students as we continue navigating the lingering effects of COVID-19. Although the conditions of the pandemic have ended, the impact on students and their learning, as well as their social and emotional well-being, is far from over and remains challenging. After 2 years of reliance on pandemic-era ESSA grant support, these funding sources from the grants are largely ending, yet the need for these resources from the grants provide has not. Therefore, the inclusion of over $1 million in additional funding in the FY24 budget offsets the loss of the ESSA grant funding and completes our dependence on funding outside of the operating budget. Next year's operating budget includes classroom teachers, special educators, including evaluation team leaders, English language learner teachers, reading and math interventionists, literacy and mathematics coaches, 2 bilingual parent liaisons, custodians, social workers, and counselors, a school psychologist, and library media specialists. While not part of the FY24 budget, operating budget anyway, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge your support tonight of Facilities Master Plan 2, which includes a much-needed 26,000 square foot addition at the north end of a middle school, as well as construction of a new Kittredge school, which would be part of the state MSBA project, along with the other projects mentioned earlier. These projects represent a generational investment in the future of our children and community, which we're truly grateful. In closing, this budget continues our work to address our greatest needs next year and is part of a long-term plan that's sustainable. Thank you, as always, for your continued support of the work that we do each and every day.
Thank you to our presenters. We're now going to go around the horn and hear recommendations. First, from the Select Board.
Select Board has recommended favorable action.
And I'd like to invite the School Committee as well.
School Committee recommends favorable action.
And finally, the hardest working group in town, the Finance Committee.
We would recommend favorable action.
Thank you very much. Have we any questions about our extraordinary budget?
Gerald Becker, 488 Pleasant Street. There's a lot of questions one could ask about a budget that's gone up by a third in 4 years. That seems to be extraordinary, to use your word, Mr. Moderator. But I want to direct my specific question to the fact that when we arrived here this night, it looked like there were 100 or more teachers outside who were discussing with us, if we bothered to stop and talk with them, their contract negotiation and the issues that they faced. The ones I talked to said it wasn't only simply that they wanted more money, which I would expect in any contract negotiation, but that the condition of the schools is not what it ought to be, and there was some discussion of administrative bloat, and perhaps, which is another explanation for why the budgets keep ballooning year over year over year. And I'm wondering if somebody from the school committee or the superintendent might address the concerns of the teachers that are outside, because there's no action before this meeting that directly addresses it other than these budget items. So before we agree to spend $60 million on the school system, we ought to understand more what the issues are that are facing the largest group of employees that the school system has. And I suppose lastly, the question is, when we're spending this kind of money on our school system, what are we getting? Are we getting better results year after year after year? Are the children learning more? Are they doing better on the state tests? Whether you think the tests are the best pedagogical instrument or not, they're a measurement. Are our children doing better and better every year? Are we getting our money's worth? And why are the teachers so upset about it? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The gentleman asks a question, and I invite the school committee or the superintendent to respond should they wish.
So we're not really at...
Bring it close.
Sorry. We're not at liberty to discuss negotiations because they are currently in negotiations, and we're all in executive session.
The gentleman asked several other questions.
There were a lot of other questions.
Do you have any comment? Do you wish to make any comment?
I would just say, in questions of the staffing, 82% of our budget is staffing. And the added that are much needed, and we've made some progress on tackling class size. For example, our elementary classrooms 5 years ago were 50% over the guidelines, and now we have 7 classrooms over those guidelines. We had the challenges of the pandemic, and it really highlighted some of the needs we had as a district that existed before the pandemic, but were exacerbated by the pandemic. And so the adding of 3 counselors across the levels, desperately needed. The addition of classroom teachers, special educators, people on the front lines, They were needed, they're what our kids deserve, and it needs the support for staff as well, so.
Thank you. Any other commentary? Hearing none, thank you very much. Ma'am?
Diane Huster, 279 Winter Street. I have a specific question to the town manager regarding the transfer to the Stevens Estate revenues. And my question is, what is the source of the almost $500,000 that's being transferred? And specifically, how much, if any, of that money can be attributed to the Stevens Estate Enterprise Fund retained earnings, or otherwise known as the profit, prior to Fireside taking over?
Mr. Moderator, I believe Ms. Houston is referring to the next article, Article 25 and 26.
Are you referring to Articles 25 and 26?
No, I'm referring to...
Want to point us to a page number in the warrant?
On page 46, Capital and Reserves. It's in the budget. You're transferring almost $500,000. I know it's going to be to the revolving fund, and that's a later article, but I'm asking what the source of the funds are. And how much of that was a profit that the Stevens Estate made before Fireside, if any?
Sure, I'm happy to clarify that. And I apologize for relating it to Article 26 and 25, but basically I have to get into a brief description of Articles 25 and 26 in order to answer that question. So thank you. After town meeting last year, the State Department of Revenue asked us to handle the accounting for the Stevens Estate revenue a little differently. So today you're seeing two articles outside of the budget that are, one, creating special legislation for a revolving account, and two, recovering the Stevens Estate funding that was funneled to free cash after the state closed the last revolving account. So of the money that's being transferred, $372,304 is from the past enterprise fund. It was either money that was left over in the account or money that had been appropriated for capital items that we then transferred into the revolving account during the 2023 town meeting. $107,583.20 is revenue that has come in from Fireside since October.
So as I understand it, $317,000 came from the old Stevens Estate account.
Correct.
Which we were told that the Stevens Estate was losing money, but there's $317,000 that they had.
That was all from capital articles, like the boiler, et cetera, that had been appropriated in past years, yes.
I realize that. And we've only received $107,000 from Fireside in the last year?
Since October. We've received $107,000 since October.
So there was a contract for $75,000, and so the only extra earnings we got was above 107 minus $75,000. Am I correct on that?
Mr. Chair, the contract is not for $75,000. The contract is $150,000 per year, increasing 2% each year on the anniversary. The fee is paid monthly. Additionally, for any catering revenue, we get 8% beyond $750,000 worth of revenue, which they did not meet this year. They did have a number of events this year, I believe 46 when I counted. We do anticipate receiving more next year. The reason the number is $107,000 is because there is some costs that we do have to pay for as far as utilities, up to $20,000.
So we didn't even get the $150,000 they promised?
We did not, because it has not been a full year yet, ma'am. It's only been October
and what's your expectation for next
Excuse
year?
me.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me. You'll speak directly to me.
And
Do you have a query or a comment?
it's okay. I just want to make sure I understand it. They didn't meet their revenue next year, and I wanted to know if she thought they'd make it the following year.
The projected rental income, Mr. Moderator, for fiscal year '24 is $132,472.36, assuming that they do not make more than the $750,000, which they have said they think they will.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Hi, Stan Novak, 26 Pembroke Road. The highest amount of revenue comes from property taxes. I would like to know what percentage of that comes from single-family homes versus multi-people dwellings. Does anyone have that broken out?
Let's
And
see if we can
nobody
get an answer to
does-
that. Do we have any clue?
Off the top of my head, Mr. Moderator, I do not believe I can answer that. I am the town assessor right now who looks like he's getting out of his chair.
I invite the town assessor to introduce himself and educate us all. And I think you just lost something.
That's all right. My name is
If it's a
Bill
credit card,
Mitchell.
we'd be happy to pick it up for you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Bill Mitchell. I'm the Chief Assessor for the town of North Andover. I owe somebody lunch now. To your question, about 80% of the income from property taxes is from single-family residential homes. The breakup between large apartment buildings may be about 12% of that, 70%. The rest of the property taxes are raised from the commercial, industrial, and personal property taxes, which equates to about 18% of the income of property taxes. Hopefully that answers your question.
Always good to have an expert in the audience. Thank you very, very much. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I think we're ready for a vote on Article 22. All those in favor of Article 22, please raise your card. Thank you very much. All those opposed to Article 22? I declare it a supermajority vote. Thank you very much. We're going to move now to Article 25 and 26, which we've just had a small bit of discussion about. They will be discussed together. May I have a motion, however, on Article 25 alone?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I would move to adopt Article 25 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Article 25 is so moved. Is there a second? The motion is made and seconded. Please, yes. And we're discussing 25 and 26.
Mr. Moderator, I would move to adopt Article 26 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
No, just Article 25.
Oh, already.
But we're discussing 25 and 26 together.
Gotcha.
Go ahead. Do you have anything to say about Article 25 and 26?
I do not.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Well,
yes.
I can tell you that the Finance Committee recommended favorable action.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Moderator, just briefly, since much of this was already discussed, so these two articles are creating a revolving account through special legislation and also recovering the Stevens Estate funding that we just referenced that had funneled to free cash after the state closed the revolving account. Through these two articles, we're making sure that all of the revenue brought in by the Stevens Estate continues to stay with the estate and is being used for maintenance and improvement of the estate only as promised. I would encourage you, if you have not been to the Stevens Estate since we partnered with Fireside, to please visit it. It has been a very successful endeavor, and just the improvements alone in the estate need to be seen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any queries about 25 or 26 or both? Sir?
Yes, George Leonard, 1000 Dale Street. It gives the address as 723 Osgood Hill. Is that a misprint? Should it say Osgood Street, or is the driveway in fact called Osgood Hill Road?
I have no idea. Anybody can help? Do we have a scrivener's error, or is that an actual address?
Okay. This is what happens when we use outside counsel, Christine. Let's see.
I will tell you that I don't know that it matters, that we are allowed to make scrivener error changes in terms of scrivener error, but it's a fair point.
It could matter. I mean, the article is printed in the warrant, says one thing, and if it's incorrect, then
It's a scrivener correction, but we will track that down and make sure that the record is appropriate. You're very welcome.
I think, Mr. Moderator, for safety reasons, we should use street, and I do appreciate the resident pointing that out. Thank you.
So done, as a matter of unanimous declaration. Any other questions? Hearing none, we're going to move Article 25 alone right now. All those in favor, please raise your card. Thank you. All those opposed? Supermajority vote. Now a motion for Article 26.
I'm just going to double check. Are you sure?
Yes,
okay.
I'm sure.
All right. Move to adopt Article 26 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The article has been moved and seconded. We're ready for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your card. Thank you very much. All those opposed? A supermajority vote once again. We're now moving to Article 30. I'm sorry. Did I miss something? 27. Yes, we did. Article 27, transfer of funds. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I would move to adopt Article 27 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. First of all, a recommendation from the Select Board
Select Board has recommended favorable action.
and a recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee has recommended favorable action.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your card. Those opposed? A unanimous vote. Thank you very, very much. Article 30 now.
Mr. Moderator, I would move to adopt Article 30 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. Do we have an explainer?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Quite simply, these are several DPW requests, rolling stock because they have wheels is my joke that I've been making about it, but not funny.
Give us a chance.
I know,
Try it
it's
again.
not good, it's
Okay.
bad. The team laughed at it when I did it in our staff meeting. So it basically purchases 4 items. It's a dump trailer, a compressor, a mower, and a vehicle lift. The dump trailer, compressor, and mower are replacement items for items that are currently aging out of our system. The vehicle lift is actually a new item. It's very important when we have multiple vehicle breakdowns and we're trying to do more things in-house.
Do we have any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your card. Thank you. All those opposed? A unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Now, Article 31. And if I might invite, while we're doing that, I want to ask that we give our appreciation to several who are not sharing the stage with us this year, who have done so in the past. Former school committee member Holly Lynch and Helen Picard, as well as who declined to run for re-election, as well as former select board member Chris Nobley. Please say thank you and express our appreciation for them. I'd also like to welcome 2 new members of the school committee just elected this March, David Brown and Alyssa Koenig, and a new member, thank you, and a new member of the select board, Brian Roach. Welcome, Brian. And also important for me to thank all the members who have served on the little-known but most consequential committee in town, our Finance Committee. Most particularly, please, past members who cycled off this past year are Ed McMillan and Jennifer Burns-Loves, and I want to welcome 2 extraordinary members who've really contributed this year, Keith Cheney and Ken Gray. Welcome very much. And lastly, important for me to recognize that joining us on the stage for the very first time in her experience in any kind of a town meeting is our new town council, Christine O'Connor. Welcome, Christine. Any moderator would tell you that the definition of a successful town meeting is when town council does not speak, and I've been delighted by her silence. And lastly, I guess, most importantly, really, to the police and fire departments and EMTs who are here today protecting our interests. Thank you all, gentlemen and ladies. Article 31, do I hear a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Eitan Goldberg, Chair of the Planning Board. I would move to adopt Article 31 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
So moved?
Second.
And I hear a second. Thank you very much. This requires, as do all zoning board articles, a 2/3 vote.
Not all.
Well, the ones that we'll be discussing proximately anyway.
Fair
and
enough.
I invite you.
Okay, so the last 5 years I've been making these presentations, I will say these are probably the most boring of the zoning articles, and we're talking zoning articles, so this should hopefully be pretty quick. Article 31 is a amendment to our inclusionary housing requirements. So as many of you have attended last year, we implemented this inclusionary zoning bylaw, and actually earlier this year we permitted the first project that will have inclusionary housing as a requirement. So it's been a success so far, but as we've been going through the year and as projects have come up, we've had the chance to try to make some slight edits to it. So we'll just go through those. If we look on page 55, the applicability, the first change is that we're just clarifying that the inclusionary housing bylaw applies to all residential or mixed-use developments and includes subdivisions. It wasn't clear from the language when we looked at it that subdivisions were included, even though we meant that to be included, so we just made that clear. The second edit, which is under B, so it looks like we're a little bit higher up if we could. The previous page. Yeah, we could just, okay, so the second one is we just struck the second language B that had to do with the Royal Crest proposal. Because that didn't pass, we don't have this mixed use overlay district, so we struck it from the bylaw because it doesn't exist, so we don't need that language. Then on the next page, we talk about continuing care retirement centers, so that's a bylaw we'll talk about a little bit later on. That's a bylaw that already exists. It's very limited in town. It's for a nursing home with affiliated housing. So that's basically what Edgewood is licensed under, is the Continuing Care Retirement Center. That bylaw, which has existed for some time now, already has certain bonus requirements and certain other requirements. So basically, it was conflicting with the inclusionary. So we said, let's just push everything back to our Continuing Care Retirement Center bylaw and have everything be in the same place under that bylaw. So the edits here make that clear. One of the things that's made clear is that the bonuses that for if you build a certain amount of units that are in the inclusionary, so we wanted to encourage more affordable housing, so we gave bonuses. There are already bonuses in the Continuing Care Retirement Center. We said, so you have to go under that one if you're doing a Continuing Care Retirement Center. You'll also see that there is a requirement that's already in the inclusionary for the first time for Continuing Care Retirement Centers to have a required 5%. Everywhere else for other residential units have to be 15%. So this isn't actually a change, but there had been some discussion about it. So we're not changing any of those percentages. The inclusionary zoning had 5% for continuing care based on their model of how their fees are, the services they provide, and things like that. It didn't make sense to be 15%. Most other communities don't do it. They mostly do it at 5% for those types of facilities. So we didn't change that, but just wanted to make that clear. So those are basically the changes. There are a couple other housekeeping changes, and that's really all we're doing with that one. So if anyone has questions.
So we'll ask if there is a recommendation from the planning board, I presume?
The planning board, all of the articles that are coming before were favorable action and by a unanimous. So the planning board recommends
We'll need to do
favorable
it one by one, and the select board?
We recommended favorable action.
Are we ready? Is there any discussion? Article 31, all those in favor, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kevin Doobie, 76 Boston Hill Road. I actually oppose this because I'm concerned about the ability to use our CCRC loophole as a means to just push a project in without the ability for the town.
If I might,
Yep.
the nomenclature, tell us what a CCRC is.
It was in the thing, the Continuing Care Retirement Center.
Thank you very much.
And the affiliate structure that does not require a nursing facility, so that they could just be an affiliate structure. This is 31 and 33. I'm kind of talking about at the same time. But they're excluded from the 10% affordability. They get a bonus to their density if they meet 10%. We're removing a 15% requirement on some parts. We're giving other special preferences to the continuing care retirement centers for cash fees in lieu of meeting affordable housing limits. I just have too many questions on this to say that we should support it at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see if we can get some clarification for you if, in fact, the chair wishes to do so.
I do, sure. So all the things that Mr. Doobie talked about actually already exist and we're not changing. So the bonuses already exist in the CCRC bylaw, which we've had for many years. The 5% was a new thing that we put in last year. We're not changing that. The 15% for inclusionary, we're not changing that. So it's to the article we're talking about right now, 31, all the things he talked about actually don't apply. They're already in the law, and if you vote yes on this, they don't change. If you vote no on this, they don't change. Those already exist. The only thing that he said that actually has some application is part of Article 33. I'm happy to discuss that at the time, but it doesn't apply to this article.
Thank you.
Stan Novak, 26 Pembroke Road. Is the goal of this to create more affordable housing?
The goal of the inclusionary housing bylaw, which we passed last year, was to provide more affordable housing. The goal of this is to clean up the bylaw that we made last year, just to add some clarifications.
But you mentioned earlier that it would be easier to create more affordable housing if this passed.
I don't think I
Isn't
said
that what you said, Mr. Moderator?
The inclusionary bylaw already exists. We're just clarifying parts of it.
All right.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please raise your card. You may put them down. Those opposed? The moderator declares a 2/3 vote. It passes. Article 32, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I'd move to adopt Article 32 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Is there a second? Motion is made and seconded. An explainer quickly?
Very quickly. So FEMA requires those in the floodplain to have flood insurance. In order to be able to get flood insurance, we have to have a bylaw that matches the FEMA maps and the FEMA law. FEMA changed their maps. We're changing our bylaw and our language to correspond with that, so those in the floodplain can get the required insurance.
And the planning board has made a recommendation?
Favorable action.
And the select board?
Favorable action.
Do we have any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your card. Thank you. Those opposed, raise your card. I declare a 2/3 vote. Article 33.
Okay, Mr. Moderator, I move to adopt Article 33 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
So made. And a second. Sir?
Okay, so this is the, what we referenced earlier, this is an amendment to the Continuing Care Retirement Center bylaw. So as I stated, we have that bylaw already exists, has existed for some time. We have one or two properties that make use of it. Notably, Edgewood is the biggest one that makes use of it. What this would allow is for a satellite location for an already existing CCRC. So if Edgewood or someone else that already has a CCRC in town wanted to make a satellite location. So the CCRC, the point of it is to have a nursing home on the lot, on one lot, with housing that surrounds it and helps it. So not if you have different levels, basically so you can live and have all your needs met in one place as a senior. So there can be some that is assisted living, some that is just general living, but you might have access to the medical, things like that. So the purpose of it so is that everything could kind of be in the same place. What we've been hearing and finding is that the need for senior housing is still very much in need, but the need for the actual physical nursing homes is not as great. So what this would allow by a special permit is for someone who already has a CCRC to build on another second lot, just one second lot, and to have the same housing, but without having to build the same physical nursing home, as long as that housing was affiliated with the one that already exists. We would examine how to confirm that affiliation. Now, a lot of this language is actually, as you can see from the highlights, affiliated is already in the bylaw. What we're adding is to an existing to make sure that it's something that already is here and is in North Andover. That's added. So it wasn't clear to us whether someone could do this already. I mean, we wanted to make sure that we're encouraging that type of housing because that's really necessary senior housing, but we wanted to make sure it's also in a restricted way because this is a more dense type of building, that it's done in association with an already existing retirement center. So this is to provide more senior housing. The inclusionary zoning bylaw does require 5% to be affordable. That already exists. The bonuses that I talked about, we're not changing. Those already exist. And there is a density bonus at 10%. Again, you can get more units if you build 10% as affordable housing. That also already exists. We're not changing that.
And do we have a planning board recommendation?
It's for favorable action.
And a select board?
Favorable action.
Any conversation? Sir?
Hi, Kevin Doobie, 76 Boston Hill Road. This one is, as Eden said, I had a point on it, and I do have a couple of questions and concerns in which what is called affiliated, there's no real definition of an affiliation. It could just simply be a common ownership, could be argued to be an affiliation, which is, to me, an issue. And there is, it really seems to be they'll just allow an affiliated unit to build up to 300 housing units pretty much anywhere in town as long as they say I'm affiliated with a CCRC. Again, taking advantage of what is now would be a loophole to the residential zoning requirements to say, no, we're just going to put this here and you have no say in the matter. And if you have any rebuttal to that, let me know.
If you choose, sir?
Sure. So there are minimum lot requirements, there are density requirements, there are dimensional requirements, which all exist under the current bylaw. Really, the only change is that someone wouldn't have to build the nursing home. We did talk at the planning board when we had this discussion over multiple public hearings about what kind of things we would be looking for if we were to grant a special permit to an affiliated site. And some of those things were, and the word affiliate is already in the bylaw, we're not changing that, but those things were ownership, those things were use of transportation, so are there buses going back and forth, are they using the same doctors, things like that, are there access to facilities on both the satellite and the original location, things like that. So while it is not specifically defined, I actually think that that's more of a positive because I think it allows us to drill down into those things if someone were to propose this and to make sure that it is of an affiliation and it's not something that's designed to be a runaround our zoning. That's why we also added in that it has to be an existing nursing home and it has to be here in town because one of the concerns that was raised was couldn't we say we're affiliated with somewhere in California? And we didn't think that was appropriate. It has to be within town. So I think there are enough structures within the amendment to avoid any of the concerns that you raised.
If I may, one additional question.
To me, sir?
Oh, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you.
I have one more additional question. 195-13.1, there is on page 79 of the warrant.
Let's give it a second. Let's scroll there. So everybody, there you are. Hope we're not making anybody dizzy.
Me.
I'm with you.
You can see this language stricken that says also only. And I'm concerned that it could be exploited to say that by removing that also only could say that we're removing the requirement. It says including, may include, not has to include, but may also only include is language that requires it to be senior housing. By removing that, I'm concerned that there could be a workaround that a savvy attorney could get away with it. Same with the affiliation, that a savvy attorney could make hay of this, for lack of a better expression.
So we did talk about those two words, and they actually didn't make sense in the bylaw that exists. But if you look at the definitions under 13.3, which aren't changed, you'll see the definitions as to elderly, as to congregate housing units, as to assisted living units, as to home health care, as to independent dwelling units, as to nursing home care facility, all of which are still required as part of it. So I don't think that's a concern.
Are we ready? No other discussion? These are two-thirds vote. All those in favor, please raise your red card. Thank you. Those opposed? I declare it a two-thirds vote. We're going to discuss Article 35, 36, and 37 together, but we'll start with a motion for Article 35. Or did I skip Article 34? I'm sorry, we're on
34.
Article 34. Sorry about that.
34, Mr. Moderator, I'd move to adopt Article 34 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Motion is made. And a second? Sir.
So this bylaw is what we've called the Dover bylaw. So many of you might have heard or know of the Dover Amendment, which is Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 3. And what the Dover Amendment says that there are certain uses that are somewhat exempt from zoning, and those being educational uses, religious uses, and certain child care centers. And so what our concern was is that there could be a project, whether it's educational or religious or child care. A lot of times the bigger ones that we have concern about are educational, that someone could propose an educational use, say a college or a school, and say, we're not going to comply with your zoning, we don't think we need to. And then in that situation, we have some limited ability to regulate for different things, but it's limited. But to things like lot size, setbacks, some dimensional, some other traffic regulations, things like that. So we do have some controls, but we have no procedures in place. So if someone went to do something under the Dover Amendment, the planning board could say, hey, you have to come and you have to meet certain requirements, but there's no actual procedures in place. So what we've done is we've created a bylaw that actually puts procedures in place if someone were to present a project under the Dover Amendment. We do not add any rights by these. These are all rights that under state law are already granted. What we do is set a procedure for if someone wanted to use that, how we would go about permitting for that. Again, it's a limited site plan review. The planning board would only have a limited role, which it does now, under Dover uses. What would happen is someone would go to the building inspector or building commissioner to get a determination whether they qualify, and if so, would have to file for this limited site plan review. So that's what this bylaw does. It sets procedures that we felt we needed, frankly, before a problem arose.
Thank you, sir.
Favorable action was recommended by the planning board.
Thank you for jumping in front of that. And?
Favorable action from the select board.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? I declare it a supermajority, two-thirds vote. Now, Article 35, 36, and 37 will be discussed together, but I'll accept a motion on Article 35 only right now.
Make a motion to approve Article 35 as drafted in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Motion is made and seconded. Sir.
So Articles 35, 36, and 37, which I'll discuss together, are cleanup articles. So in our bylaw, we have definitions of daycare center. Since the bylaw has been enacted, the Dover Amendment has changed the definition of to child care facility and somewhat changed that definition. So what we're doing is changing our daycare center definition to match state law. And we're doing that in 35, just changing the definition. In 36, changing it wherever we find it in the bylaw. When you change a bylaw, you actually have to literally cross out what is in there and what the changes. So our planning director painstakingly did that. And then we also have to do it in the summary table so that these things all match. So that's what these three articles do. And favorable action from the planning board.
Thank you. Any, we have a support for Articles 35, 36, and 37?
Yes.
From the planning board, and the same with the school select board?
Same with the select board.
Thank you very much. Sir?
Stan Novak, 26 Pembroke Road. I have yet another stupid question.
Not at all.
Article 35, it looks like everything gets crossed out and replaced with nothing. Is that what's happening? Or what is it being replaced with?
That's a good question. I thought it was replaced by child care facility. Is that? Defer to our planning. I think I don't know. I defer to our planning director. I think it's replaced by child care facility.
It is.
Hi, Jean Enright. I'm the planning director for the town, and I live
Welcome.
at 27 Concord Street in North Andover. So the definition is replaced within Article 34. So that bylaw now includes definitions for the Dover Amendment.
34 or 36?
Oh,
34.
the one we just,
one we
the
just
Dover
passed.
one we just did.
Yeah.
I missed that. We did that earlier. So that's where it was. That's a good question. We did it earlier.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So we don't even really
So
need
it's
this.
just striking that, correct, right.
Are we ready?
Ready.
We know the drill. All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? Declare that a unanimous vote. We'll move to Article 36. We have a motion
We move to adopt Article 36 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
and a second. I hear such. We're ready for a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? Another unanimous vote. Article 37, a motion, please.
I'm sorry, did someone have 9:45? Because I have 2 minutes. I would
yet done
move
speaking, sir.
to adopt Article 37 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your card. Thank you very much. Those opposed? I declare a supermajority.
I said 8:15.
Thank you so much. Now, that was only our penultimate article. I want to thank you for your attention and participation this fine evening. A couple of points that are important. I want to give particular thanks to the town clerk, Dawn Warren, her extraordinary staff, the volunteer tellers, the town IT director, John Highland, who's been negotiating all of this, North Andover Community Access Director, Brian Frazier, and his staff, our town accountant, Lynn Savage. Thank you so much, Lynn. Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jim Mealy, and most importantly, the lead custodian, Steve Langlois, and his many colleagues who helped set this up today, and the dozens of others who've helped run this meeting. It's deeply appreciated by me, and I hope by all of you as well. I'd only add that the very act of conducting this meeting is a fitting way to begin our 377th year as a community. I thank you for the respectful, informative debate, the civility you all afforded to each other, and the effort made to contribute to our town. I ask you to be kind, and I recognize the chair for the final article.
Mr. Moderator, I move that this 2023 annual town meeting be dissolved.
The motion is made. Is there a second? May I have your cards, please? Thank you. Nobody is not in favor. I declare the meeting over. Thank you very much, everyone.